FDR saved America, then the GOP ripped us apart. And, you know, as I note, today is the official beginning of the political season. It's, you know, it's the first Tuesday after Labor Day, or the first day after Labor Day. And it's kind of a Monday, Tuesday. And, you know, when I was at the DNC at the convention where I was broadcasting from the Sirius XM booth, it was amazing. I mean, you know, everybody was laying out how Republican red state governments were failing and how, you know, some very good for America, the middle class programs that Joe Biden first signed into law almost 4 years ago are doing well. He stopped inflation. We have the highest stock market in history. We have some of the best job numbers and unemployment numbers that we've seen since the 1960s. We have the fastest return of factories to America in over 50 years. And all of this raises a critical question. How did we go so far astray after FDR saved us from the Republican Great Depression? And what can we learn that can help from FDR that can help Democrats win elections and put America back together again? You know, first off, for an answer, we need to go back 50 years and see what happened. Back in 1971, Lewis Powell wrote his famous Powell memo. The next year, President Nixon put him on the Supreme Court. And he was the guy who wrote the Buckley versus Bellotti, the First National Bank of Boston versus Frank Bellotti decision in 1978 that said that corporations are persons, and as such, they have First Amendment rights of free speech, and as such, they can give unlimited amounts of money to political campaigns and things like that. I mean, that was the beginning of the whole thing kind of coming unraveled. That was how all that oil money flowed into the Reagan campaign 2 years later in 1980 to elect Ronald Reagan after he had negotiated with the Iranians illegally, you know, criminally violating the Logan Act and arguably committing treason, telling the Iranians to hold on to the hostages to hurt Jimmy Carter. So anyway, that was the 70s. And, you know, prior to that, we'd had an economy that had been humming along for 40 years. We had a top income tax bracket of 91%. We had a top corporate income tax bracket of 50%. That top personal income tax bracket encouraged CEOs to leave money in their companies and pay their employees better. That top 50% corporate tax bracket encouraged companies not to do corporate buybacks. Reagan legalized that in '82, but rather to invest in their own businesses, to develop new products, to do research and development. And that's why, you know, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s saw the fastest growth of American industry in history. Franklin Roosevelt and frankly, Republican Dwight Eisenhower, I mean, this was all before the GOP went insane, had rebuilt America after the Republican Great Depression. They gave us modern state-of-the-art public labs, schools, public hospitals all across the nation, nearly free college, trade school, and research support, healthy small and family businesses, unions protecting over a third of us, which created a wage floor that meant that 2/3 of us had the equivalent of a good wage, you know, union wage and benefits. We had an interstate highway system, a rail system, a network of new airports, all, you know, brand new and transforming America's commerce. When we handed America over to Ronald Reagan in 1981, it was a brand gleaming new country with a prosperous and thriving middle class. And then, of course, Reagan did what Reagan did. He had all these new ideas, right? We're the Republicans. We're the, you know, now that we're rid of that Dwight Eisenhower guy, we're the party of ideas. Ideas that we got from, you know, David Koch when he ran for president or vice president in 1980. Like, you know, let's do away with the Department of Education. Let's stop funding education so that, you know, now instead of paying, you know, the federal and state governments paying 80% of the college tuition, as they did in 1980 when Reagan came into office. You could go to college anywhere in the country and pay for it by working at McDonald's. I did. I mean, I didn't work at McDonald's. I worked at Bob's Big Boy on Trowbridge Road in East Lansing, Michigan. It's the same thing. But now tuition is 80% of, and federal and state is only 20%. I mean, we've you know, literally flipped it upside down. Reagan did that. He said if we just cut the tax rate on the morbidly rich from the 74% it was when he came into office down to 27%, he actually took it to 25% for 1 year. He said that the benefits would trickle down to everybody else. Right. Now billionaires pay only 8% of income tax. I guarantee you, you pay more than a billionaire does, even if you're living on Social Security. And as a result of this, we now have the greatest wealth and income inequality in the world. In fact, the greatest the world has ever seen. We have 3 families who are worth more than the bottom half of America. Half. $50 trillion was taken out of the homes, retirement plans, income, pensions of working class people. $50 trillion and transferred directly into the money bins of the top 1%, with Reagan's 2 or 3 tax cuts and Bush's 2 or 3 tax cuts and Donald Trump's 1 massive tax cut. $50 trillion that you and I gave to about 11,000 families in America who earn more than, who are worth more than $100 million. It's incredible. Republicans told us if we just deregulated guns, remember those bumper stickers, an armed society is a polite society? You see them in cars back in the 1980s. This was Reagan's thing, right? Just deregulate guns. Well, the Supreme Court, 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court got into that act and did that. And now, instead of a polite society, we have the highest rate of homicide in the world, gun homicide in the developed world. We have the highest rate of children being killed by bullets of anywhere in the world. More children are killed by guns than by anything else. It's surpassed car accidents now. And school shootings are pretty much a daily thing, certainly a weekly thing. Republicans told us if we just ended sex education and outlawed abortion, we'd go back to the 1950s, father knows best, where every child is wanted and every marriage is happy, right? Instead, now that abortion is illegal in 20 red states, we have a return to deadly back alley abortions. Republicans told us if we just killed off civics and history classes in school, we'd liberate our young people to study math and science, right? Now, 2 generations of Americans can't even name the 3 branches of government, much less explain the meaning of the Constitution's general welfare phrase. Republicans told us if we just stopped enforcing the anti-monopoly and antitrust laws that had protected small businesses for nearly 100 years, that big businesses would get bigger and more efficient. Well, they sure did that, and they wiped out the ability of small businesses to start. We no longer, you visit any mall in America, do you see locally owned companies? I don't. They said if we just changed the law to let corporations pay their senior executives with stock, that they'd be incentivized. Well, instead they're incentivized to take billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year out of corporations and put it in their own pockets instead of companies developing new things. They told us if we just turned our healthcare decisions over to insurance companies instead of doctors, the system would get more efficient, right? Yeah. They told us if we just let a handful of individual companies and billionaires buy most of our media, that 1,000 media flowers would grow. How did that work out? They told us if we just got rid of our unions, then the corporate bosses would look kindly on us and give us better pay. Yeah, right. That was a lie, too. They told us if we just went with a trade agreement that Bush and Reagan had negotiated, NAFTA, that we see an explosion of jobs. Oh, we saw an explosion, all right. 60,000 factories gutted. They told us global warming was a hoax. It's a hoax. Yeah, the hoax, turns out, was the lie that there's no such thing as global warming. And then there's the biggest GOP lie of all. Money is the same thing as free speech. The bottom line here is that we have now had for 43 years the full Republican experience. And we don't want to hear Republicans sermonizing about deficits that they caused, or welfare programs that they damaged, or even whatever they call faith these days, be it the death penalty, forcing raped children to give birth at the barrel of a gun, or burning books. We're over it, Republicans. A new America is being birthed right now, right in front of us, and you and your morbidly rich patriots can't stop it anymore. I'll be right back. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, We also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily. Pat Mitchell. It's titled Becoming a Dangerous Woman, Embracing Risk to Change the World. This is from the preface titled The Most Dangerous Woman in the Room. Yes, I'll be there. Eve Ensler was calling with an invitation to what she described as the meeting of movements planned for the first week of January 2017. In the wake of a polarizing presidential election in the United States, Eve had decided it was time for activists to come together to shape strategies that would unify and leverage the collective power of a wide range of social justice organizations. Who else is coming, I asked. I'm not releasing the invitation list, Eve replied, but you'll want to be in the room. Indeed, I did want to be in that room, knowing from past experiences that any meeting or event that Eve organized would be meaningful. So I showed up, as the invitation indicated, at a nondescript building in Stone Ridge, New York, and surrendered my cell phone to the smiling young volunteers at the front door. Best to have all communication devices outside the room, was the explanation, which of course heightened my anticipation about what would transpire within the room. I entered a large room and saw Eve standing at the front with folding chairs in a circle. Mingling about the room were some familiar faces, the meeting's other conveners, Kimberly Crenshaw of the African American Policy Forum, Naomi Klein, award-winning author and activist, independent media entrepreneur and journalist Laura Flanders, and Jane Fonda, actor and activist. We were asked to find our seats, and Eve began. "We are living in dangerous times," was her opening line, and such times call for new levels of activism from all the communities represented in this room. Let's begin by identifying who's in the room. One by one, the introductions began. I'm one of the founders of the Women's March. I'm the executive director of 350.org. I run Project South. With each introduction, the level of leadership and activists' credentials became more impressive and, for me, more intimidating. I could feel my anxiety building. How was I going to identify myself? I have no title and was no longer running an organization, having left my CEO position at the Paley Center for Media the previous spring. I could say that I was the CEO of Pat Mitchell Media with its grand total of 2 employees, including myself, but that felt wholly inadequate to explain why I belonged in that room. I mentally rehearsed some other options. I could say I was a lifetime advocate for women, true enough if a little vague. I could list some of my previous titles, but why make a point of being the former anything? I was struggling to come up with how to identify myself in the present, an identity that would hopefully give some indication of why Eve had included me in this circle of activists and leaders. Finally, it was my turn. Before I knew it, I heard myself saying, "I'm Pat Mitchell, and I'm a dangerous woman." I'm not sure exactly what prompted this personal declaration of dangerousness, but I could tell from the looks of surprise that I needed to add a bit more context. At this time in my life, about to turn 75, I continued, I have nothing left to prove, less to lose, and I'm ready to take more risks and to be less politic and polite. As Eve said, these are dangerous times, and dangerous times call for dangerous women. That got a big sisterly yes from Eve and others in the circle, including Jane Fonda, who was sitting across from me, and stood up declaring, "Well, I'm older than my friend Pat, so that makes me even more dangerous." Laughter erupted, of course, and I could sense that others were contemplating exactly what becoming more dangerous to meet the challenges of dangerous times would mean for each of us and for the work we had convened to consider. Certainly Jane Fonda's life of activism is a textbook case for being bold and brave. During our many years of friendship, I've witnessed her willingness to take risks for a good cause, to speak out and show up, even when it meant personal peril or sacrifice. At 81, she is still on the front lines, campaigning for domestic and restaurant workers' rights, standing with the American Indian communities, protesting natural resource exploitation at Standing Rock, and busier as an actor than ever. In her book, Prime Time, Jane advanced the idea that older women have the potential to become the most powerful population on the planet. She's a great example of how we embrace that potential at every age. My personal potential for becoming dangerous is perhaps more directly linked to my friendship with Eve Ensler. From our first conversation in war-torn Sarajevo in 1998, I've been deeply inspired by her courage and her commitment to do whatever is necessary to end violence against women everywhere. Taking risks comes easier to Eve than to many, writing and performing the vagina monologues, making it the centerpiece of a global movement.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Friday. TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak. It is the end of the week, the beginning of the weekend. And also tonight at midnight, 1 a.m., 1:51, 1:21. Now that's Pacific time, so that would be a little earlier for you on the East Coast and in between, is the shortest day of the year. This is, of course, why back in the day, I learned this when I lived in Germany, and we went out in the forest and they clipped these real candles all over this giant pine tree, and then we went out and sang Christmas carols with the horses and a donkey and a bunch of dogs and a whole bunch of kids on the side of a mountain. And, the story that I heard was back in the day, like thousands of years ago, they had these calendar stones, and the smartest guy, the leader of the tribe, knew when the shortest day of the year was coming. And so on the shortest day of the year, they'd go out and they'd light a tree on fire, the highest tree they could find on top of the mountain, set that tree on fire, and he'd say, "Sun, reignite!" And the next day would be a little longer, and the day after that a little longer, and all the people would go, "He did it again." Yeah. Okay, well, we have our little solstice tree right here in the studio. We have a lot to talk about today. How oligarchy works, who wins and who loses. I want to get into that. Also, why President Musk and Trump want a shutdown, his sidekick Donald Trump. Also, why is President Musk endorsing the German neo-Nazi party? I'm kind of scratching my head on that. In the second hour of our program, Joe Biden says student debt cancellation is coming for public servants. And in the third hour of our program, a scientific breakthrough alert. Has the mystery of long COVID been solved? Is help on the way? We'll see. But some interesting stuff about inflammation and things like that. So, a lot to talk about. I'm going to start actually with the news. The stuff that's in the news right now, which is the shutdown. And there's a couple of things that you need to know. The first is the big picture issue. And I'm going to make a prediction here, just because, I've only seen this movie about 100 times now. Well, actually, probably 15 or 20 times since Newt Gingrich first rolled into Congress in, I think it was 1996, might have been 94. But here's my prediction. The Republicans actually love shutting down the government because they think that, they're operating on the old David Koch thing, that the only legitimate function of government is running the military, the police, and the courts, and the courts to protect the interests of billionaires, and the police, of course, and everything else, education, healthcare, environmental protections, all that other stuff should be done by private industry. And so, in all probability, they will shut down the government. But the imperative that the Republicans have, if they do shut down the government, is to blame it on Democrats. So in the House, that's going to be kind of difficult because, the Republicans have a majority in the House, and they had cut this deal with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer over in the Senate, and whoever, I'm assuming Mitch McConnell, whoever is leading the Senate Republicans. Probably John Thune was in on it, as he's going to take that role in January. And so if they can't pass, a resolution through the House, then the Republicans get blamed. That's just, so I predict that the Republicans in the House of Representatives will get their caucus together and they will pass a continuing resolution to keep the government funded. It'll be obscene. It'll, do away with the debt ceiling. It will, actually, I've got a whole list of things here I'm going to go through with you in just a minute. But I think it'll pass. And the reason why is because then it goes to the Senate, which Democrats control. And this is going to be such a terrible continuing resolution. It's going to be bad enough that they can get all the cokehead caucus, the so-called Freedom Caucus, on board, the guys who owe their allegiance to the Koch network. They're going to get them on board. That's how bad it'll be, right? These are the people who always vote against continuing resolutions. And so if they pass this thing out of the House, it goes to the Senate. And in the Senate, Chuck Schumer's going to look at it and say, no way. And at that point, the Republicans are going to flood the media saying, Chuck Schumer refuses to keep the government open. And suddenly the blame is on the Democrats. We'll see. This is my prediction. I've been wrong before, and cooler heads may prevail, but I'm not holding my breath. So what's the real reason that Elon Musk decided 13 hours before Donald Trump said a word? President Musk decided that he did not like the budget deal that had been worked out between Democrats and Republicans. Well, here's one section of the bill. This is a description of this provision in the bill from the New York Times. It criminalizes the publication of non-consensual intimate visual depictions, in other words, revenge porn, including deep fake photography, and requires social media platforms, that would be Elon Musk's X, to have staffing and procedures in place to remove the content after being notified by a victim. Musk does not want to spend the money to hire people to work at X to delete revenge porn and AI porn. So he's like, this is going to cost me money. Kill the bill. So now that they have, killed the bill, let's take a look at what was in the bill. These are the things that caused Democrats to say, okay, we'll vote for this thing. And by the way, there was one thing that got stripped out of the bill before, and Democrats went along with this, and that is not continuing the high levels of funding for the IRS. So it looks like no matter what happens next year, billionaires don't have to worry about getting audited because the IRS is going to have to lay off a whole bunch of auditors. But here are the things that were in the bill and that got removed. The first is a $190 million program to fund research into childhood cancer and support children with cancer. I mean, this is craziness, right? This was the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Program. It was created in memory of a 10-year-old girl who died from a brain tumor. And, I mean, this is just terrible, number one. And it's only $190 million. I mean, this is about how much money Elon Musk makes in about 2 hours. Secondly, Americans investing in China, including renewable energy batteries and electric vehicles. In other words, they don't want funding. Elon Musk does not want any American car company other than Tesla to be operating in China. Number three, bipartisan pharmacy benefit administration reform requiring big insurance companies to divest any pharmacy holdings that allowed them to jack up prices. That particularly means CVS. Number four, refunds for stolen food stamp cards. And finally, extension to health care. They also, of course, want the debt ceiling to be raised so that they can give another big tax cut to billionaires. Musk killed this with a whole bunch of lies. He never said, I don't want this thing because it's going to cost me money over an X. Instead, he claimed that the bill contained a 40% pay increase for Congress, which was a lie. He said it would prevent Republicans from investigating the January 6th committee, which is a lie. He said it would fund the bioweapons labs, and that's a lie. And he said it would pay for a new stadium for the NFL's Washington Commanders. All of these are not true. But, hey. It also cut, and now they also cut out of it funding to extend the World Trade Center Health Program, which was providing funding for health care for 9/11 first responders and survivors. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, says, never forget, aren't just words in New York, they're a promise. Yeah, and she's totally opposed to this. And they also cut funding for detection of breast and cervical cancer and research on sickle cell anemia. After all, that's just women and black people. And the provisions to combat deepfake porn, I mentioned that. They also removed funding to combat opioid abuse and regulations meant to put guardrails on pharmacy benefit managers, which is a big win for United Healthcare. Now, Rick Wilson, the former Republican strategist, is telling Democrats, show no mercy. Let them shut down the government. Let them take responsibility for it. But like I said, there is a way that they can do this and blame Democrats in the Senate on it, for it. And I'm fully expecting that they are going to do that. If they don't do that, it's going to be an interesting challenge for them. Okay, on the other side of the break, I want to share with you my How Oligarchy Works, who wins, who loses, and I'll be picking up your calls. After all, it's Anything Goes weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program, 16 minutes past the hour. It's the place where despair is not an option. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Jerry in Venice, California. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind today?
I just want to remind everybody about this women's march that needs to happen so we keep this movement going, because, people don't care that that's in the media.
I haven't seen a single story about this. I remember that, there was talk about one for January 17th, I believe, or 18th in D.C., but I literally have not seen a single thing about it. What am I missing?
There was something on SNBC that there wasn't a lot of interest. That's the only thing I have heard.
Yeah.
But it's something that, these guys are not going to go away. My thing 50 years ago when I was on the Venice Boardwalk, the only place that was safe for a woman was at that truck, in that fruit truck. Mm-hmm. The motto ought to be, how fast woman got man's hand off her ass. That should be the motto, because they did it.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But now that it's fading, I don't think that we need to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a march. I don't know if people are going to be in the streets. I don't know what it's going to take to get people in the streets these days. Jerry, thanks for the call. Spot on. Barbara in Kennesaw, Georgia. Hey, Barbara, what's on your mind today? Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Hey, Tom, it's wonderful to talk to you. Been with you since Air America.
Oh, well, thank you, Barbara.
Well, this may sound trivial, but to me, enjoyment of things is very important. And everything you look at on TV, you have so many ads, you really can't enjoy what you're watching. Mm-hmm. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, by and large. It
seems like a trivial thing, but it's just so completely irritating.
Yeah, I get it.
I only watch something that, a movie or something that I really want to watch, and then I'm glad that I'm a reader, because that's where I get my most enjoyment is reading. But the other thing I wanted to say is the fact that I really don't think, like you say, get into the Democratic Party and change it. I just don't think we have time to do that. I think we need to find somebody, a dynamic person, an FDR type of dynamic person who can relate to people, mm-hmm. and get something else besides our two-party system, because the two-party system is it's just not doing anything for us.
Well, it's not the two-party system so much as it is the Supreme Court changing the rules of politics saying that it's okay to bribe people. But I get it, Barbara. And it's interesting to know, you know, Franklin Roosevelt and Teddy Roosevelt before him, the two great progressives of the first half of the 20th century, were both very, very wealthy men. You know, they came from very, very wealthy families. And, you know, we've got J.B. Pritzker. He's the governor of Illinois. He's a billionaire, and he's a very charismatic guy. You've got, you know, Gavin Newsom in California. He's, you know, he's not broke. I don't think he's a rich guy, but but there's some good talent out there. You know, it's going to be a real interesting time here to see, you know, who steps up and who cowers in the face of this growing fascism.
Thank you. And Tom, one thing I do need to know, what is that serotonin stuff you take?
Melatonin. I take 5 milligrams of melatonin every night, time release. For, you know,
melatonin, and can you get that?
You can get it at any drugstore, any health food store. You can get it online. It's all over the place. Barbara, thanks for the call. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. It's no coincidence that the time in Europe when the church ran the continent, you know, from around the 5th century to around the 15th or 16th century, that 1,000-year period is referred to as the Dark Ages. This is what happens when religion controls politics, when religion controls the state, the nation, and every nation of Europe was controlled essentially by the Catholic Church during that period of time. It got busted up with the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century. This was what the founders of this country very much knew about. George Washington refused to declare himself a Christian. Thomas Paine wrote an entire book embracing atheism. Ben Franklin fled Massachusetts as a teenager to escape the religious threats. And Thomas Jefferson went off on it regularly. There's a whole piece about how the Republicans are trying to impose a new dark age on America. It's all laid out, all the quotes and all the links over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
Game being played in the Capitol halls, where billionaires tower and the common folk crawl. They cut through the safety nets we all depend to hand out tax breaks to their billionaire friends. They call it freedom, but the cost's obscene. Trading food for fortunes and hope for a dream. The people's voice grows quiet, the power shifts. Oligarchy rises on the back of their gifts. But this is how oligarchy works, robbing the people while the wealthy smirk. It's the art of the deal, but the price is steep. Sell it on democracy while the billionaires reap. We say it's trickle down, but the wells run dry while families struggle. Billionaires fly. Fox News whispers lies to keep us in place as billionaire shadows obscure the people's face. They call it freedom, but the cost obscene. Trading food for fortunes and hope for a dream. The people's voice grows quiet, the power shifts. Oligarchy rises on the back of their gifts.
Welcome back, 23 minutes past the hour. How Trump transforms democracy to dictatorship, a warning America can't afford to ignore. That's the title of my op-ed over at HartmannReport.com today. Former Congressman Adam Kinzinger is wondering out loud if President Musk will force Vice President Trump to shut down our government. You know, it's all about raising the debt ceiling, Trump says, so they can roll out the next round of tax cuts for billionaires, something you're not going to hear on Fox so-called news. But the actual story behind this story is even more sinister. You know, we've got a real challenge here today. Actually, today's piece is titled "How Oligarchy Works: Who Wins, Who Loses." And you know, this whole thing, you know, they want to borrow another $5 trillion so from you and me and our children and grandchildren so that they can give it to Elon Musk and his billionaire buddies. And like I said, you're not going to hear about this on Fox News. But I wrote a book about this, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, Reclaiming Our Democracy from the Ruling Class. And this is what's going on. In a democracy, we elect representatives who do what the people want. And for example, this is polling from the Associated Press and the NORC Center for Public Affairs. 83% of Americans want increased infrastructure spending. 81% want tuition-free community college. 79% want higher Social Security benefits. 72% want tuition-free four-year public college. 62% want government-insured health care coverage. 60% want higher spending on education. 60% want more assistance to the poor. 60% want increased support for Medicare. 60% want increased spending on Social Security. I mean, it goes on, right? None of these things, these are all the things that Democrats want to do, and these are all things that Republicans oppose. So what do Republicans want? Well, the Republican agenda is not a small d Democratic agenda. It's not a democracy agenda. It's not what the people want. It's what the billionaires want. This is the list of, in their priorities. Number one, they want tax cuts for billionaires and giant corporations. They want to extend that tax, the Trump tax cuts beyond next year. They want deregulation of environmental, financial, and food safety protections for average Americans so that they can increase corporate profits. They want to repeal Obamacare and cut access to Medicaid to make more money for the insurance giants. They want to build a wall on the Mexican border and increase deportations. They want hundreds of billions more for defense contractors and private prisons. They want voter suppression and gerrymandering for political gain. They want to criminalize abortion, and they want preemption laws so that red states can prevent blue cities within those red states from, for example, having tighter environmental regulations, higher minimum wages, tighten gun control laws, and protect women's access to health care. So those are that's the agenda of the Republicans. Now, how did this happen? Well, this all started when Lewis Powell got put on the Supreme Court back in 1972. In 76, you had the Buckley decision that said billionaires can fund campaigns. In 78, you had the Bellotti decision saying corporations can do the same because they're persons too. And then in 2010, of course, they kicked the door. They didn't just kick the door open. They knocked down the walls and just said, hey, billionaires can run the whole show. And that's what we just saw. Elon Musk puts $277 million into a campaign, and Donald Trump gets elected. And now Elon Musk is calling the shots. This is not democracy. What we are looking at right now is full-blown oligarchy. And so, we need to get solid with it. It's 27 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
The long twilight struggle was winding.
Our book in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is The Cabinet, George Washington and the Creation of an American Institution by Leslie M. Chervinsky. This is from the introduction. At 11:30 in the morning on August 22nd, 1789, a large cream-colored coach pulled up to the front door of Federal Hall, 6 Wall Street in New York City. 6 matching, perfectly groomed horses pulled the elegant carriage with sparkling gold trim. The coachman, outfitted in crisp white and red-trimmed livery, jumped down from the back of the carriage and opened the door. An elegantly dressed man with powdered hair stepped down with a portfolio of papers under his arm. He towered over his companion, Henry Knox, the acting Secretary of War, and his slaves attending to the horses. His ornate coach and his imposing presence drew curious stares from strangers passing by on the street. He walked up to the front door of Federal Hall and was immediately announced. George Washington, the first president of the United States, had arrived for his first visit to the United States Senate. This was no ordinary meeting. 2 years earlier, the delegates at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia had agreed that the Senate would advise and consent on treaties and other questions of foreign policy. But in practice, how the president and the Senate would interact remained for the first office holders to work out. Washington's relationship with the Senate was just one of countless governing details that he had to establish as the first president. Establishing precedent for every presidential action consumed his thoughts in the first few years of his administration. Not only would the American public and international audience judge his every action, but his successors would be guided by his choices. The stakes could not have been higher. The future of the Republic rested on Washington making the right decisions. He approached every new situation with caution and took action only after consulting with his advisors. His first visit to the Senate was no different. The tense relationship between Native American nations and the United States posed an immediate challenge after Washington's inauguration on April 30th, 1789. Most Native American nations had sided with the British during the Revolutionary War, recognizing the threat that American settlers posed to native lands. On November 15th, 1789, 1789, representatives from the national government, North and South Carolina, the Creeks, and the Cherokees planned to meet to discuss the controversial treaties signed between 1783 and 1789 and to negotiate a new treaty. Washington had to select the representatives to send on behalf of the federal government, another important first for the new president. At his August 22nd meeting, Washington planned to seek advice about what instructions he should give to the commissioners. Because he considered Native American relations to fall under the heading of foreign policy, he followed the constitutional guidelines calling for him with the Senate. On May 25th, 1789, less than a month after his inauguration, Washington sent to the Senate all of the United States' previous treaties with the Indian nations, along with a number of supporting documents. After a brief discussion, the Senate postponed its consideration of these papers. At the beginning of August, the Senate created a committee to meet with Washington. That committee planned the minute details of the upcoming meeting, down to where Washington would sit and how he would enter the chamber. On August 20 and 21, Washington nominated commissioners to negotiate with the Southern Indians. On August 21st, he sent an official note to the Senate announcing his visit the next day to discuss the terms of the proposed treaty. When Washington and Knox arrived at Federal Hall at 11:30 a.m., the doorkeeper announced their arrival. Washington sat at the front of the chamber, and Knox took the chair to the right. Washington handed his remarks to Knox, who in turn handed them to Vice President John Adams. Adams read the statement, but as Senator William McClay from Pennsylvania recalled, the senator, quote, could not master one sentence of it, end quote. Adams was not known for his public speaking skills, but the senator's struggles weren't entirely his fault. The Senate gathered for their work in the large chamber that occupied the first floor of Federal Hall. Because of the August heat in New York City, the doorkeeper had opened the windows in search of a cooling breeze. But along with fresh air, noisy Wall Street's pedestrians, carriages, peddlers, and horses flowed into the Senate chamber. The clamor overpowered Adams' voice, so few senators could make out the words that Washington had so carefully crafted. After a few complaints, Adams repeated the speech from the beginning. Washington's remarks offered a brief synopsis of the current diplomatic state between the United States and the Southern Indians and posed 7 questions for the Senate to answer with an aye or a no. Adams finished his recitation and sat. The seconds ticked by as the senators remained in awkward silence. A few shuffled papers or cleared their throats. McClay speculated in his diary that his colleagues were so intimidated by Washington's presence in the Senate chamber that they cowered in shameful silence. Eager to show that they could be active participants in the creation of foreign policy, McClay stood up and suggested referring the Washington's 7 questions to committee for discussion in detail. Washington then lost his temper, stood out at, "This defeats every purpose of my coming here." The senators fell into a stunned hush before Washington acquiesced to McClay's suggestion and offered to return to the Senate a few days later. Although he did not return to the following Monday, his first visit to the Senate was an inauspicious the executive legislative relationship. The book is The Cabinet by Leslie M. Chervinsky.
Every time I vote, I get so mad. The billionaires are laughing, it's so sad. They bought the laws, they bought the game, and now they're selling us all shame. All I want for Christmas is my democracy back, my democracy back, my democracy back, back from the billionaires and the sleazy pack. Oh, please give me my democracy back. Dark money flows like rivers wide. Crooked politicians take their side. They write the laws, they set the rules, while we're left feeling like they're fools. All I want for Christmas is my democracy back, my democracy back, my democracy back, back from the billionaires and the sleazy pack. Oh, please give me my democracy back. Dark money flows like rivers wide.
It's Anything Goes weekend. What's on your mind today? Beachside Bill in Orlando, Florida. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Afternoon from Florida, Tom. Hope all's well. Wishing everybody a happy holidays out there to you and yours, and hope all's well.
Yeah, so far so good. Louise and I are looking forward to 2 weeks off. It's going to be a wild time. We've prepared some really great best of shows, by the way, for the next couple of weeks. So just FYI.
This is good. So I had some good news, Tom. I told you earlier this year I donated my 150th gallon. Now I'm at, next Saturday, I'll be at 155 gallons of blood donated.
Wow. And that's so good for you, Bill, in addition to being such a good thing to do. I mean, it really makes you healthy, you know, particularly for men and non-menstruating women. There was a study back a couple of decades ago that was sponsored by the Red Cross that found that if you donate blood twice a year, if you're a man or if you're a woman who's no longer menstruating, your risk of death from all causes, cancer, heart disease, I mean, basically all organic causes, drops by 25%. That's incredible. Yeah. It's because you're reducing your iron load in your liver. Back to you. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I donate 24 times a year because I donate platelets strictly. My blood type's A positive, so that's the key. You know, that's why I can get, anyone who donates whole red blood, they can donate 6 times a year. It's 56 days.
Well, you should do whole red blood at least twice a year to get that benefit that I was telling you about. Because just donating platelets.
I did it earlier this year. Yeah. I'm going to do it here soon, like probably in January. But the good thing is, I'm waiting on a commitment. I'll have National Public Radio follow me around this coming next Saturday, the 28th. Mm-hmm. So that's the day. That's the official day. So I'm working with them trying to, get a commitment.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'll have them follow me around. I sit there for an hour and a half. I'm going to get stuck, and and all that, and I'll have to take the needle out, and I'll show you the machine, the whole thing. So it's going to be fun. I have a lot to say about blood donating. I could spurt it all out here, Tom, but I got to get to other people anyway. So
it's a great Christmas gift for others, for the world. It's a holiday gift. Yeah. Yeah.
My blood goes to Children's Hospital. It just went to Nicholas Children's Hospital, speaking of Jack Nicholas. So, it just here over in Orlando. So, but I just want to wish everybody happy holidays and all that, and wish everybody, go donate blood, because January is National Blood Donor Month, which still gets to me, because I think what happened when they probably named it, people would get drunk during the holidays, right, Tom, and they'll have to sober up in January, right? They have to get the alcohol out of the system, so they figure they'll donate blood. I don't know how else to think about it.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have worked for December. I get it.
Yeah, no, it won't work. Not this time of year. You don't want to go in there. I've talked to them about this. People have gone in there drunk, and I don't drink. And thankfully, I don't drink. But people have gone in there drunk, and it's probably not a good thing.
Probably not. Yeah.
But anyway.
All righty. Well, Bill, thanks for that, and congratulations, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is for you. I wish you the very best. And your family.
Thanks, Tom, and we'll talk next year. Okay, I'll let you know with NPR. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bill.
Take care. Thank you. Yep.
From Bill to Bill, this is Bill in St. Helens, Oregon. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Yeah, hi, Tom. I want to discuss this concept of electing a private citizen speaker. Before I make my quick case here.
Right. If I can just real quickly, for people who don't know what you're talking about, Rand Paul has proposed that if they kick out Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, that they replace him with Elon Musk. And the president has to be a citizen and 35 years old and all that. And the leader of the Senate is the vice president, who has those same requirements. But the Speaker of the House, who is number 3 in succession for the president, if the president and VP go down in flames, literally, then the Speaker of the House becomes president. That job does not require anything. There are no requirements for that. So Elon Musk could become Speaker of the House. Back to you, Bill.
No, he actually can't. Okay, I'm going to make 2 caveats. Thomas Jefferson reemphasized a number of times that the Constitution was written for the common man. It says what it means, and it means what it says. And to allow any form of tortured logic, it's just open a constitutional Pandora's box. Caveat number 1. Simple interpretation. Caveat number 2, I did contracting for many years, and in contracts, 2 words are used quite often: may and shall. May has wiggle room. Shall is absolute. It allows no sidebars. It allows no, misinterpretation. All right. So just a little lead in. Article 1, Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. Now, that's important because that's who has the legislative powers, the House of Representatives. Article 1, Section 2, the House of Representatives, who would have all legislative power, the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states. Now, that tiny little paragraph defined both the composition and defined who a member would be.
Right.
Now, what's more interesting is you read further down, every time they talk about the powers of the House, they say each House shall be the judge of terms, qualifications, and of its own members. Each House may determine the rules of proceeding and punish its members, may expel its members. Every single caveat refers to its members, and yet Article 1, Section 2 clearly defined members as chosen every second year by the people of the several states. So, A,
who have been citizens for 7 years and are at least 25 years old. Yes,
and all that. And it's the member. That's the question. Musk cannot be a member. By the definition of Article 1, Section, Musk cannot be a member. If he cannot be a member, then he can't be part of the composition. This is just straightforward.
No, it simply says the House, Section 5, the House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. It doesn't say that the Speaker must be a member of the House. It simply says that they choose their Speaker.
Are we really?
I'm reading it.
I understand that. What is the word compose? What is the word compose? If he's has a position in the
shall choose their Speaker and other officers and shall have.
Tom, we're kind of playing the game about they shall make their own rules, and now we have the filibuster. The problem with that is they didn't put anything in to prevent for the Senate from instituting the filibuster. Had they, the Senate would not have a filibuster.
Well, first off, Bill, this has never been adjudicated, so either one of us could be right or wrong. Because ultimately the interpretation of the Constitution is up to the Supreme Court. But setting that aside, I have not heard a single constitutional scholar, and there's been a bunch of them talking about this on television the last 24 hours since Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene proposed Elon Musk for Speaker, arguing the position that you're taking. Everybody is saying, the Constitution is essentially silent on this, and so therefore Musk could be Speaker of the House. And we had this conversation a couple of years ago when, the last time there was a major battle over the Speaker of the House, and there was some talk about bringing in somebody from the outside. And I think it was, what were they thinking about? Bringing in former President Bush, or they wanted to bring some, washed-up politician in to be Speaker. I don't recall who it was.
Yeah, well, numerous constitutional sites also enumerate, even if it's not in the Constitution, numerous constitutional sites enumerate the powers of the Speaker of the House. And one of them that's come up repeatedly is one of his powers would be signing bills and resolutions that are passed by the House of Representatives. Now, are we going to argue that an unelected Speaker...
Where does it say that?
Can sign? No, that's my point. They're going through the powers...
No, where does it say that the Speaker shall sign bills?
I'm doing the thing that Republicans love to do. I'm going off book.
So you're not quoting the Constitution. You're offering an opinion. I'm not offering. If you go to various constitutional sites and they go through the typical powers of a Speaker, one of the typical powers, they say administering the oath of office, referring bills to committees, administering votes, counting and declaring votes, recognizing members of the House. Yeah, you're talking House rules. House rules can be amended with a simple majority vote.
Tom, I think if someone tells me that my household is comprised of 5 family members and I happen to have a dog, and they say, but the dog is not a member of your household, I think you're actually doing exactly what I'm claiming. You're torturing the logic. Shall be composed.
Well, I'm not the only one doing it, Bill. I'm telling you, every constitutional scholar that I've heard on television and so far or read says, yes, Elon Musk could be Speaker of the House. The first person that I've heard say no is you, and you're not able to cite a single word in the Constitution that supports your position.
He cannot be a The speaker cannot be, an unelected speaker cannot make up the composition of the House.
Yeah.
He cannot make up the composition. If he can't make up the composition, how can he have any authority?
I understand your logic, Bill, and you know, you may well be right, but you're going to have to ask 6 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court at the end of the day. Bill, I got to run. Thanks for the call. It's thought-provoking. I appreciate your contribution to the discussion today. Thank you. It's coming up on 45 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's 45 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Weekend. And welcome back. Let's see here who's been on hold the longest. And it looks like that would be Maverick in Edmonds, Washington. Hey, Maverick, what's on your mind today? Thanks for listening to KBCS.
Hola, muchacho. Espero para tú y tu familia tienes una feliz Navidad y próspero año y vacaciones muy bueno.
Muchas gracias, señor. Me too.
Now that's Spanish, but I think that a lot of people could kind of get the gist of what I was saying.
Well, the Feliz Navidad kind of jumped out, you know.
Sure, yeah, there's a lot of familiarity there. And I'm going to circle back to a point in just a second. I want to emphasize that it's easier to raise a moral and ethical child than to repair a damaged adult. And it's hard to hate someone that you understand. All right? So, last Friday, a week ago, there was a comic in the newspapers, both papers here in my area, from the Wizard of Id, and there were 2 peasants shoveling horse manure into a pile, and the caption said, "I wish someone would cross the border and take my job already."
Interesting.
I was very upset by that. I don't get offended, but that really bothered me. And if I did get offended, that I would find that offensive.
Because?
Maybe I'm wrong, but to me the implication was that, somebody coming up from, across our southern border ought to be shoveling manure.
But that's the history of this country. Immigrants to this country, my grandfather was one of them. Immigrants to this country typically take the crappiest jobs as kind of a starting point. It's their entry point into America. Now, you can argue that it's exploitative. It's an exploitative system, and I would agree with you, but it's reality.
Fair enough. But to me, that seemed deeply inappropriate for a comic strip.
Well, I think what their point that they were trying to make is, that a lot of these low-paid jobs, low-end, difficult, nobody wants them jobs, are going to be really hard to fill if deportation happens.
Well, my letter to the editor in protest has not been published yet, so it won't be.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to say before you move on to your next caller is, Spanish is an extremely useful language. You can use Spanish from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to learn.
And across Spain.
And if you're a progressive
in Europe.
Well, Spain too. Yeah, they've got their take on it. But it just opens up so many doors. And I've been working with Spanish people off and on for my whole life. And once they know that a white guy like me is making even the smallest effort to learn their language, it's without fail. They do everything they can to help you out. A very gracious culture.
Yeah.
And what I would like to ask people is to consider teaching your children a second language from a very early age.
Oh, there's science that shows that people who know a second language, who grew up, who learned a second language before the age of 10, it boosts IQ by about 5 points.
It does. And Spanish in particular, I speak a little Spanish. I'm learning all the time because I work with 2 wonderful guys that help me out. You also get insight into Italian, French, Portuguese, and Latin as well.
Yeah, all the Romance languages.
There. Yeah. So teach your kids Spanish, everybody.
There you go.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah,
have a great vacation.
Thank you, Maverick. Yeah, I had 2 years of Spanish in 2nd and 3rd grade, actually. I still remember some of it. Thanks, Maverick. Merry Christmas. We'll be right back. thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
You're a mean one, Mr. Trump. You govern with disdain. You stacked the court with chaos and left us all in pain, Mr. Trump. You've got a heart that's smaller than a microscopic grain.
Welcome back. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Marty in Wixom, Michigan. Hey, Marty, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I just wanted to share some thoughts on one tactic that folks might use to fight back against the billionaires who are taking over our government.
Okay.
One of the challenges in generating the necessary citizen response to this ominous threat is that most of the public has no real sense of what it means to be a billionaire, nor any comprehension of the truly enormous gap between the lives and interests of the billionaires versus their own.
Right.
The word billionaire is tossed around a lot now, in part because it becomes so politically, economically active, but the term is often interpreted as just a simple label for rich. But the difference is so much more than that, and to help illustrate the magnitude, I've done a little math.
Okay.
A simple billionaire with just $1 billion could literally spend $100,000 every day for 27 years before the money was gone. If one assumed they just earned a modest 4% per year on their billion, they could spend $100,000 a day forever.
Right.
Elon Musk, the world's richest person and someone who's taking it upon himself the role of telling Congress how to slash spending for the public, is worth a purported $400 billion. He could literally spend $1 million a day for over 1,000 years and never run out of money.
Yep.
Anyone listening can get a calculator and do the math.
Yep.
These billionaires like Musk are people that seriously live in an entirely different world than the average citizens.
Yep.
People need to realize these billionaires don't give a damn about average citizens. They could care less about the cost of groceries. If we can help people come to realize that, hopefully we can reduce the ability of these billionaires to buy our elections.
Yeah, there's a few good ones. I think, Mark Cuban and J.B. Pritzker are concerned about the average person. But by and large, Marty, your math is solid, and I agree with your perspective, and well said. Thank you very much, and happy holidays to you and yours. Russ in Hickory Hill, Illinois. Hey, Russ, what's up?
Yeah, Tom, thanks for taking my call. Before I get to my question, your rant in the beginning, throw it out. I watch Bloomberg. I must be the only moron that watched the stock exchange. There's going to be three separate bills. One's going to be a farm bill. One's going to be something else. And the debt ceilings are not included in any. And the second, take our governor off the map. He's not running for president because Durbin's thinking of stepping down. He'll be 83 years old in 2026.
Who are we talking about? I somehow I missed that name.
Durbin.
Oh, Dick Durbin.
Our senator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's just stepping down, so Pritzker's going to want that seat.
Oh, interesting.
His term's up.
So when does Durbin up for re-election in 26?
Yeah, in 2026, which your state and our state are the same. Your governor runs, our governor runs. Uh-huh. Your top guy is up, our top guy is up.
Oh, interesting.
But so Durbin's going to run for Senate. Well, Pritzker's going to run for Senate. Why? He's there for life. But why I called is when we win, say, because it's going to take more than $280 million to get J.D. Vance elected.
Yeah.
Is it time to smack this guy, Elon Musk, in the Supreme Court like, you're going to jail? I think you're traitors to this country. We find you guilty, you can be executed.
Guilty of what?
That's the only way. Huh?
Guilty of what? I mean, buying an election was legalized by five Republicans on the Supreme Court.
I know. Here's the thing. They don't seem to need a reason why we're guilty of anything. Because I'll tell you something, Tom. You go after Liz Cheney, you better watch our father go after somebody in his family.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to stand for his daughter.
I'm not sure how active Dick is these days. We haven't heard a peep from him. In fact, Liz said that he was going to vote for Kamala Harris, but he never said a word. I have a feeling, he's had really serious heart problems, and he's an old guy. I have a feeling he's not all here with us right now. But,
what do you think, Tom? So it's time to punch these billionaires in the mouth? Hey, they don't seem to need a reason.
I think it's time to get money out of politics, and that would be an effective punch in the mouth to them, Russ. But yeah, I get it. Russ, thanks a lot, and happy holidays. Sharon in Minneapolis. Hey, Sharon, what's up?
Hi, Tom, and thank you. I have a very controversial recommendation for President Biden as he goes out. Mm-hmm. And I believe he should bestow upon Jane Fonda the Presidential Medal of Honor. And
I agree with that.
And I think it should be, because when you think about how we got into it, knowing that it was an unwinnable war, and we went on and on with that until Bob McNamara came in with his Project 100,000. And since all of these disadvantaged people, these mentally challenged people into that war, and all of these billions of dollars that were made by chemical companies, aircraft companies, and Bob McNamara was given the medal, the Presidential Medal of Honor.
Which is crazy, because he's the guy who lied Lyndon Johnson into the war in Vietnam. He promoted the lie, knowing it was a lie, for 2 weeks before LBJ figured out that he had basically started the Vietnam War based on a lie, and then LBJ was stuck.
And then Jane Fonda, she made a mistake by being, taking a picture with the North Vietcong. Yeah. And she got the dubious name of
Hanoi Jane,
and she actually saved lives. Her actions actually saved lives.
Yep.
And then later on, we get into the Gulf War, knowing the history of Vietnam. And the Gulf War was an unwinnable war.
Yep.
And W. Bush gets a Medal of Honor for, being president. Cheney gets billions of dollars from the Blackwater. And all these people are making money, and people's lives were destroyed.
Yeah. No, excellent points all. Thank you very much, Sharon. And Jane Fonda for Congressional Medal or Presidential Medal of Honor. I love Jane Fonda. She's been on this program a number of times. She's still out there working hard, and I believe she's in her 80s. She is she's the Energizer Bunny of the left. She's just great. I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Not only are the rich different from you and me, they're getting more different than ever.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com. Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Criminology on Trump by Greg Barak. This is from the introduction. Criminology on Trump is about family business, habitual lawlessness, and the struggle for economic and political power. The central character, Donald Trump, is a con artist, a master gaslighter, and a shrewd racketeer. It is the story of how the Houdini of white-collar crime and the founder and CEO of the Trump Organization operated a criminal enterprise from within an incorporated organization beginning in 1980 and continuing up to and from within the bowels of the White House for 4 years. At the same time, it's the history of the causation of the social, psychological, and physical harms connected to the Donald and his associates before, during, and after the presidency. This book is also an account of the activities that Donald Trump pursued in order to obtain the power of Commander-in-Chief of the United States, what he then did with that power of the bully pulpit once he achieved it, and finally the lengths to which he would go to keep from losing that power. Lastly, this is the story of what many elected and appointed politicos did or did not do to acquire or to forfeit their individual shares of Trumpian power. This overall analysis of the underside of the rule of law begs the question, had the Donald not become the 45th president of the United States, would he, his children, or the Trump Organization have found themselves formal defendants and legal adversaries of the people of the state of New York? My answer unequivocally would have been no way. As of January 6, 2022, the question remains open as to whether Donald Trump, as the former president, or any of his family members will ever be indicted and prosecuted for criminal tax fraud and the other felonies, along with the Trump Organization, Inc., and its CFO, Alan Weisselberg. From the point of view of newsmaking, lawlessness, and equal justice, much of the popular discourse surrounding Trump has to do with competing narratives. The most reverberating of these has been the dueling apocalyptic narratives traversing both old and new media platforms alike. One narrative has to do with witch hunts, hoaxes, fake news, global elites, and the deep state engaging in a myriad of underworld and otherworld conspiracies to bring down Trump. The other narrative has to do with saving the U.S. democracy from authoritarianism, recovering law and order from the damage, chaos, and trauma of Trump, and restoring American normalcy without all of that political insanity. While these two narratives capture the cultural conflict, the diverse groups of people at work here and the rival social movements of incompatible interests, desires, and visions, neither speaks to the fundamental structural conditions that generate the divisiveness between these two narratives. Without ever addressing these structural relationships, the two sides will remain at loggerheads for some time to come. The medium is always, as always, is still the message. And so far in the 21st century, social media is the medium. At the same time, the weaponizing of racism, misogyny, hate, fear, intimidation, and violence vis-a-vis social media is neither new nor unique to the United States. These socio-cultural expressions of the contradictions of patriarchy, neocolonialism, and capitalism have been around since the nation's inception. Today's Proud Boys are the contemporary versions of New England churchmen in the 1700s, the Klan riders of the 1800s, or the fervent followers of Joseph McCarthy in the 1950s. Likewise, the anti-critical race theory politicians of today that do the bidding for white minority rule and racial discrimination are very much the same as John C. Calhoun fronting for the rich plantation owners during the antebellum South. The primary differences between the not-so-distant past of the last 75 years and the present have to do with the disbursements of the accumulation of capital. From post-World War II until around 1974, the United States experienced close to 3 decades of unparalleled upward social mobility, as well as a rapidly expanding middle class. However, since the mid-1970s to 2022, there's been a steady increase in economic inequality, a shrinking middle class, and downward social mobility for many. Thus, the contemporary bipartisan erosion of the liberal capitalist consensus in the United States is not the primary cause of our present democratic crisis, but it is rather symptomatic of a much broader problem that neither the Republicans, as a whole, nor most of the Democrats are willing to accept. The book Oh, well, continuing. I'm referring to the inability of our bourgeois democratic system to resolve the contradictions of a political economy that promises the American dream to one and all and yet caters to the richest 1% and provides suitably for the upper 10%. In other words, our country's present-day conflicts over identity politics, government failures, neoliberal policies, right-wing intransigencies, and climate change not only predate Donald Trump and Trumpism, but they are all fundamentally driven by the unrelenting and expanding political economy of structural inequality. What makes this Trump book different from the others is that it is the only one grounded in the scientific study of crime and social control. Criminology focuses on the pathology of harmful acts and the cultural construction of both crime and punishment. The book is Criminology on Trump by Greg Barak. Greg Barak, by the way, is an expert in criminology, as you might guess.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. And just take a look at my one sheet here. There we go. Why is President Musk endorsing Nazis? I get it. You know, some people call him the space Nazi and all that, but, you know, I always thought that was tongue-in-cheek. But last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, he posted, "Only the AfD can save Germany." The AfD is the party Alternative for Deutschland, which is basically a neo-Nazi party. And this is, and Trump seems to be, you know, now going after the European Union also. Now, keep in mind, the AfD is the party that Putin likes. And we know that Trump we hear from the Wall Street Journal that Trump and Musk have been talking to Putin for the last couple of years. Back channel. And here's Donald Trump posting on Truth Social. 4 minutes after Elon Musk endorsed AfD in Germany, Trump posts, "I told the European Union that they must make up their tremendous deficit with the United States by a large-scale purchase of our oil and gas. Otherwise, it's tariffs all the way." Which is, you know, I mean, this is shaking the politics of Europe. Gideon Rachman, who is the chief foreign affairs commentator for the Financial Times, I subscribe to the Financial Times, have for years. And I read his, anytime Gideon Rachman writes something, I read it because he's solid. He said, Musk's megalomania grows apace. He's clearly trying to engineer a far-right revolution across the Western world. He's now backed the AfD. Before that, he backed Reform in Great Britain. The Reform Party in Great Britain is the anti-Brexit party and the one that's most closely associated with the hard right. Back to Gideon Rachman. And he's the dominant figure in Trump world. He'll clearly get behind Le Pen, another kind of neo-Nazi. Joni Escola, a Finnish geopolitical analyst, she says, Musk seems focused on destabilizing Europe while strengthening Russia and China. He will support anti-EU candidates as much as possible. Germany should be prepared, as he has already started influencing elections by openly backing the pro-Russian, pro-Chinese, far-right AfD. What the hell is going on here? I mean, this should be quite concerning, frankly, to all Americans, and to clearly the world is concerned about this. Meanwhile, you'll recall Joe Biden, when he came into office, he said that he wanted to eliminate student debt in the United States. Republicans, I believe it was 16, I forget the number, it was something in that neighborhood, some teen number of Republican attorneys general, state attorneys general, sued him and took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't just eliminate student debt. And so he's been doing it piecemeal based on a piece of legislation that was passed back in 2007. This was a Barack Obama initiative called the Public Service Student Loan Forgiveness Program. And basically what it is if you've worked for a certain number of years for government or for an approved nonprofit, then you can have your student loans wiped out after you've made regular payments for 10 years. And so he's using that now to, he's already approved $180 billion in student debt relief for 4.9 million people. And today he's announced that tens of thousands of public servants, estimated 55,000 people, will receive $4.28 billion in student debt cancellation. This is, very, very good news for people who are burdened with student debt and who have been working in the nonprofit sector or working for government. So good on our president, Joe Biden. He's still doing good stuff. So what's on your mind? Chris in Littleton, Colorado. Hey, Chris, what's up?
Yeah, good morning, Tom. Scientists discovered a new dinosaur. It's called T. Rump Asaurus Dawn.
I get it.
Okay, I guess my point, the reason I called, I wanted to say corporations are just an extension of rich owners. And 50 years ago, corporations were regulated to not harm the public.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they are subsidized by huge tax dollars that make the rich richer and harm the public.
I agree.
We need to re-regulate corporations, and we need to take the money out of politics.
Completely agree. Completely agree. The challenge is how to do that. You're never going to have that happen with Republicans in charge because they are all pro-oligarchy.
Yeah, and that's why we need to start now for the next elections and start supporting Democrats and start preparing for the next elections, and also support groups like Move to Amend and ACLU and voting rights groups and all that.
Yep. Completely agree. Well said, Chris. Chris, thank you very much, and happiest of holidays to you. Charles in Vancouver, Washington. Hey, Charles, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Happy Friday. Long time speaking with you. Something very personal and hurtful happened in that I accepted a new position, got hired right in my initial interview. It was for a driver delivery specialist for a major auto parts retailer. And because of my background in oil, gas, chemical, cryogenic gases, they offered me the job on the spot and even gave me more money. Well, unfortunately, they assigned me to a trainer, a 45-year-old guy that of dubious character who listened to the music at decibel levels that you couldn't speak and seemed to want to sing to every song as if he was a karaoke bar. And what made it worse is that while he was behind the wheel of the company vehicle, he was texting on his personal phone and talking. And
holy cow.
I finally brought it up to the manager, who thanked me and said, yeah, I did the right thing. Got sent out with, and I just said, can I be with someone who's more safe? Got sent out with the guy again. He lost his temper, told me to shut the F up, told me to go get another job, said, you told on me, I'm a valued employee, and you can go, you know what? And I was so surprised and unnerved that I called my boss and I said, you know, this guy is threatening me, and I don't feel comfortable or safe. So as it turns out, I ended up going out, and I took light rail back in Vancouver from Hillsborough. You know our area.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the manager said, you did the right thing, and please write a statement. Long story short, I'm the one that got terminated.
Yeah, of course.
And,
that's so often the case with whistleblowers.
I know. And, you know, I had a former friend said, well, you should have kept your mouth shut. And it's like, no, I'm a professional driver. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. I'm concerned about safety and liability. And as I told your kind screener, you know, trickle-down economics has always been a fallacy. But I believe, and this happened right after a week after the election, but I firmly believe now more than ever that trickle-down evil is alive and apparent. And you know that. Your listeners know that. Good is bad, right is wrong. Truth and justice don't matter. And I was so distraught, Tom. I was ready to jump off the ledge. But thanks for a few people that cared, and music kept me going. And so I'm hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I always appreciate your program, and I tell people left and right about free speech television.
Mm-hmm.
And I will survive, as they say. But doggone, man, to get terminated from a job when you didn't do anything wrong is just not right.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree, Charles. And that
can I say one last thing, Tom?
Sure.
I don't know if you can say, but I ask people to boycott O'Reilly Auto Parts if they can. So thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Good to hear from you, and I wish you the happiest of holidays. I realize it's going to be a tough one.
You too.
Thank you.
Yes.
15 minutes past the hour. Back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stay tuned.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be right back with more of your calls in just a moment here on the program with Talk Media for the Sane Among Us. And welcome back. Michelle in Kansas City, Missouri. Hey, Michelle, what's up?
Hey, Tom. First, I have a disclaimer. Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State of Kansas, the crazy right-wing one, was my constitutional law professor in law school.
Oh, really?
So who knows what I don't know about the Constitution. But as I read it, Elon Musk can become Speaker of the House. He's second in line for the president, but you can't be president unless you're a natural-born citizen. So how is this going to work out? Like, the Republicans can never think 2 steps ahead.
Well, I think they would just, if the president and vice president were to die, God forbid, I think that probably under the Constitution, you would just jump over the Speaker of the House and whoever is next in line in succession. I think it's the Secretary of State. I could be wrong.
It's ranking. I think it's a ranking member of the cabinet.
Okay. Yeah. So whoever that is, which may well be the Secretary of State. Do
you think that he would let that happen? You think Musk's ego would let that happen?
I have no idea. I mean, I've given up predicting things with these guys.
I'm just, I got nothing else to do but read the Constitution right now. So
there you go. Well, that's there are worse things.
Good holidays.
Thank you. You too, Michelle.
Good holidays, my friend.
Appreciate the call.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul in Ambler, Pennsylvania. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to talk about the election results in Pennsylvania for the presidential race this past November. Numbers have just been certified, and I've been running through them pretty quickly, but I wanted to point out some of the after election reports and finger pointing and accusations and try to narrow down what some of the problems are, at least in Pennsylvania, and I think they magnify larger problems across the country. Basically, the Republicans had a much higher voter turnout in the counties that they were in, even though the numbers aren't huge. In 60-some counties, I saw voter turnout percentages of over 80%, over 70%. Now,
that's unusual.
When you look at Philadelphia, the voter turnout was 59%. Now, even though the city turned out over 500,000 votes for Kamala Harris and gave a net positive, I think, of something like 375,000 votes, if you have 60 other counties and you've got, excuse me, if you have, just like 50 here and 100 there, it adds up. Yeah. Trump didn't win by a whole lot. It was hardly a landslide. It was a very small amount. But here's the thing. People are looking at the numbers, and what they're seeing is the collapse of support for Democrats. Barack Obama got the most net positive, then Biden, and then Kamala Harris, and it kept falling down. So if you're a professional and you're running like the Harris campaign is running it, they're looking at these charts across counties all the way down to the precinct level. And what they're seeing is not enough people came out in Philadelphia, so they're blaming Philadelphia for that. Yeah. Well, 30% of Philadelphia is below the poverty level. When you talk about abandoning the working class, you're talking about people that have been permanently plunged into poverty. Why would they come out to vote for you? The Republicans aren't doing anything for you, but neither are the Democrats.
I think it's the propaganda, frankly. But Paul, I'm out of time. Thank you for the information. That's fascinating. We'll be right back. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Recently, I did an op-ed and a little rant here about what happens when you raise the top income tax rate on morbidly rich people to 90%, and how, that helps reduce income inequality and funds the government and all kinds of good positive things. What about corporate taxes? We really need to go back to the 50% top corporate income tax rate that we had under Dwight Eisenhower, for example. The reason why is not on the assumption that we're going to collect all that money, but what it does is it causes corporations to change their behavior, to do things to try to get tax deductions so they don't have to pay that in taxes. And what are the main things they do? They develop new products. They do research and development. They become more competitive. They open up new stores. They pay their employees better. They offer better benefits. All of these things are 100% tax deductible and thus lower their corporate income taxes and help out America. You can read all about it over at HartmannReport.com.
Chestnuts roasting on the BPA-free stove.
Welcome back. 21 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. John in North Chelmsford, Massachusetts. Hey, John. Thanks for listening to WCAP. What's up?
Hey, Tom. This has to do with, it's a little arcane. I think I said that one time when I mentioned the fascists trying to silence ham radio. And this has to do with the woman that President Musk, Vice President Vance, and his little, Vice President, his little imp Vance, put this woman in, former Fox News person, and I think what she's going to do is look at all the Voice of America radio stations around the world, scream it's old technology, get rid of them, everybody can stream. No, they can't. There's... the people in the jungles, not everybody walks around with a computer. So
and the same is true in the Russian Federation.
Oh, exactly. And what's going to happen is China Radio International has gone nuts with their transmitters. And so that's what people are going to listen to. And I just think it's nuts. And I know it's, like I said, it's...
Well, this happened during Trump's last presidency, as he replaced the head of Voice of America and that whole system with a right-wing crank, and they started changing the news. They started putting a right-wing spin on everything that we were saying.
Oh yeah, this will be Fox News International.
Exactly. And this is what happens these days when you elect neo-fascist Republicans to the White House. Or to anything, for that matter. I mean, they hate democracy, these people, and they hate America.
Oh, I agree 100%. I really do.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm going to say 73, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, John. 73's back at you, and appreciate the call. Steve in Gresham, Oregon. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Steve.
Oh. Hi, Tom. So, with all these people leaving, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Uh-oh.
Leaving what?
Okay. All these people that say they're going to leave the country because Trump got elected reminded me of a movie called Duck, You Sucker. Are you familiar with the movie?
I'm not.
Okay. Sergio Leone movie takes place during the Mexican Civil War. It stars Rod Steiger as a Mexican bandit, illiterate, and James Coburn as an Irishman who's a and they got sucked into the Mexican Revolution. And there's one scene in it where the Irishman is sitting reading a book, and the Mexican comes over.
Steve, you need to get your mouth near the microphone of your phone. You just faded out on me.
Oh, my phone's doing weird things. I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah, it's doing really weird things now. You still there?
Oh. All right. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, we'll have to have a conversation another time. I'm sorry. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's up?
Hey, I do wish progressives would stop trashing the Democrats all the time.
Yeah, me too.
A guy called in. Huh?
Me too. I agree.
Guy called in talking about the Democrats haven't done anything. Remember, 51 million jobs versus the Republicans saying 0 million.
Yep.
If you can't get that in your head, and you're still trying to run around trying to claim that the Democrats and the Republicans are the same, there's something wrong with your head.
Yep, agreed.
10 recessions versus 1. Something's wrong with your head if you're calling a radio station and saying the Democrats and the Republicans are basically the same.
Amen.
I'm one of those people who watch the stock market, as one of your other callers said, and I still think the stock market is broken. However, it has reverted back to what it normally does, and that is when the NASDAQ and S&P 500 and the Dow, the graphs look like sisters, not twins, sisters. They kind of have the same shape. For 12 weeks, the Dow just took off on a different tangent. And I've talked to you about this before, where it appears that somebody was forcing the Dow to match Donald Trump's Dow. And today is one of the first days that seemingly has stopped happening. I'm not sure what I can do about that. I'm thinking about calling the FBI to see if somebody can investigate if our
I would not advise that, Larry.
Pardon?
I would not advise that. But
I'm trying to do this before Donald Trump becomes president. I know he's going to become president anyway. I'm trying to do it before he becomes president. And I don't really care about any right-winger out there. I've been getting death threats for 20 years because of the things I see on the radio. They don't scare me.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. Larry, thank you. Thank you for the call. And good luck with that. It's 27 minutes past the hour. I'll pick up more of your calls on the other side of this break. It is Anything Goes weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with you. Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Code Red by E.J. Dionne Jr. It's how progressives and moderates can unite to save our country. This is from the introduction, titled The Opportunity We Dare Not Miss. Will progressives and moderates feud while America burns? Or will these natural allies take advantage of a historic opportunity to strengthen American democracy and defeat an increasingly radical form of conservatism? The choice in our politics is just that stark. This book is offered in a spirit of hope, but with a sense of alarm. My hope is inspired by the broad and principled opposition that Donald Trump's presidency called forth. It is a movement that can and should be the driving force in our politics long after Trump is gone. His abuses of office, his divisiveness, his bigotry, his autocratic habits, and his utter lack of seriousness about the responsibilities of the presidency drew millions of previously disengaged citizens to the public square and the ballot box. The danger he represented inspired young Americans to participate in our public life at unprecedented levels. Tens of thousands of Americans, especially women, have gathered in libraries, diners, and church basements to share wisdom, to organize, and in many cases to run for office themselves. These newly engaged citizens have created an opportunity to build a broad alliance for practical and visionary government, as promising as anything since the Great Depression gave Franklin Roosevelt the chance to build the New Deal coalition. To seize this opening, progressives and moderates must realize that they are allies,
who have more in common than they sometimes wish to admit. They share a commitment to what public life can achieve and the hope that government can be decent again. They reject the appeals to racism that have been Trump's calling card and the divisiveness at the heart of his electoral strategy. Together, they long for a politics focused on freedom, fairness, and the future. This new politics would be rooted in the economic justice that has always been the left's driving goal, and in the problem-solving approach to government that moderates have long championed. It's true that these camps often battle over whether the nation should seek restoration or transformation in the years after Trump. In fact, our country needs both. To restore the democratic norms we have always valued, we must begin to heal the social and economic wounds that led to Trump's presidency in the first place. Yet there is resistance to common ground among progressives and moderates alike. They often mistrust each other's motives, battle fiercely over tactics, argue over how much change our country needs, and squabble over whether specific policy ideas go too far or not far enough. The moderate says, hey, progressive, you think that if you just lay out the boldest and most ambitious approach to any given problem, the people will rally to your side. Really? For one thing, people may like your objective, but think you're changing things way more than we have to. And we can battle to the death over, say, a Democratic Party platform plank or the first draft of a bill. But without the hard negotiating and compromising that legislative politics requires, a bold idea will remain just a platform plank. That really doesn't do anyone any good. You subject everyone to so many litmus tests, so we might as well be in chemistry class. And God save us from your abuse on Twitter if we disagree with you. You lefties have no idea how to win elections outside of Berkeley or Brooklyn, and some of your ideas are so sweeping that they'll scare potential voters away. At this point, the moderate is likely to wield the sturdy old punchline, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. But hold on, says the progressive. You moderates spend so much time negotiating with yourselves that you compromise away goals and priorities before the real battle even begins. Your ideas get so soggy and complicated that they mobilize no one and mostly put people to sleep. Better to have the courage of your convictions, lay out your hopes plainly and passionately, and inspire voters before to join in. Besides, you middle-of-the-roaders were so petrified of Ronald Reagan and the right wing that you caved into the Gipper's economic ideas, let inequality run wild, and gave us a racist and grossly unfair criminal justice system. The extremists have pulled the political center so far right that the only way back to sanity is to show our fellow citizens what a real progressive program looks like. At the risk of sounding like a perhaps unwelcome counselor attempting to ease a family quarrel, I would plead with moderates and progressives to listen to each other carefully. If the events since 2016 do not teach moderates and progressives that they must find ways of working together, nothing will. If they fail to heed each other's advice and take each other's concerns seriously, they will surrender the political system to an increasingly undemocratic right with no interest in any of their shared goals, priorities, and commitments. Moderates are right about the complexity of getting things done in a democracy. Even when the boldest ideas have prevailed, they did so because complex coalitions were built. Important, and it should be said often legitimate, interests were accommodated, and some lesser goals were left by the wayside to be fought for another day. Moderates are also right that democracy requires persuading those who are open to change but worry about how this or that reform might work in practice or affect them personally. Think losing their private health insurance. Disdaining as sellouts, those who raise inconvenient questions or express qualms, is not the way to build a majority for reform. Moderates are also right that Americans in large number are tired of politics that involves more yelling than dialogue, more demonizing than understanding. But progressives are right to say that for the last 3 decades, moderates have spent too much time negotiating with themselves. Consider all the effort Democrats put into wooing Republicans by responding to their proposals to amend Obamacare. The book Code Red by E.J. Dionne Jr.
Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. America is suffering from an epidemic of bullying. And one of the things we know is that culture, including bullying, flows from the top down. We've seen studies where when issues of For example, being gay or transgender are being debated in the public. Gay and transgender kids in school are more likely to be bullied. When racial issues are being discussed, people of minority races are more likely to be bullied. Well, now we've got a man who has literally built his career on being a bully, Donald Trump, as president, or was president, as candidate. And he is driving this insane bullying campaign and using it as a political weapon across the United States. And it's contagious. It's dangerous. There's an entire article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled "America's New Epidemic, a Nation Overrun by Bullies." Check it out.
Santa's team's on display.
Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Keno in Lakeland, Florida. Hey, Keno, happy Fria's Day.
Yes. The goddess of love, and for which Friday is named after her. Yes. Okay, Tom, a little vacation from politics momentarily. An idea for a gift of service. Pushing people that are shut-ins in a wheelchair. I was in Holland, in the Netherlands, 20 years ago, and I was in the city of Silversum, and in a park talking to a Dutchman, and I heard this singing, and I looked up and down a side street. Here came a parade of I counted 25 wheelchairs where volunteers were pushing these people to give them an outing. They were shut-ins, people in nursing homes, and people that lived in homes that couldn't walk, and talking to this Dutchman, he said, yeah, this started out as a group of retired people that needed something to do, and not all the people that were in the wheelchairs had wheelchairs, so they had some volunteer wheelchairs, but it was not limited to retired people. There were other volunteers, but they would make these outings to push these shut-in people out, come to the park and push them around in the out of doors, and they were singing and happy, and it was a sight that I've never seen. It might be a way for some here in the United States, I don't know if such thing exists, but retired people to organize these outings for shut-ins, and just as an idea of a gift, to make the world a better place.
What a sweet idea, Keno.
Well, it was beautiful to see the 25 wheelchairs coming through the park with all these volunteers pushing them, And I've done it with a few of my older friends that were shut-ins, and just take them out to go around the streets and around the block. And it means so much to them just to get out of their being confined. And so that's an idea as a gift for people. Maybe we got to think of ways to make the world a better place, and that's one little idea.
God bless you, Keno. That's great. If you learn anything more about anybody else doing anything like that, that's the sort of thing that could become a movement if it had the right leadership. By the way, go ahead.
And especially for retired people. I've got a few retired people that they can't figure out what to do with their time now. And this Dutchman in the park, he says that, it started off with retired people, something to do to go make the world a better place. And then it increased, so they had, beyond just retired people, other volunteers would come that were able to push these people in wheelchairs.
Right.
And
I get it.
It was a beautiful.
I get it. So Keno, you always, on Fridays, you always wish me a happy Fria's Day. Fria, of course, the Norwegian goddess, one of the Norwegian goddesses. My apologies if I've asked you this before, but do you practice any of the old religions?
Yes, well, I go to the Unitarian Church, and we have a group that practices and gives honor to pagan practices, and but all pagan practices, and that one, especially since most people don't know that Friday was named after Fria, which was this Norwegian goddess. And so I just want to bring it to people's consciousness that we still have a connection to our pagan past. Wow. And every Friday when we use the word, and of course Thursday is named after Thor, and Wednesday after Woden, who was Odin. So the pagan influence is still with us, and we got winter solstice coming up here in a day or two, and so bless you for being open to all kind of ideas being presented on your program, Tom.
Thank you, Keno. I think the winter solstice is tomorrow. Tonight is the shortest day. Today is the shortest day of the year, or tomorrow, I guess, would be. Keno, thank you. Thanks for the call. It's always so nice to hear from you, and happy holidays to you, and good talking to you. Jackie in Port Townsend, Washington. Hey, Jackie, what's on your mind today?
Hi. Well, I'm just upset that we have laws against treason and sedition and subversive activities. 18 U.S.C. Chapter 115. It spells it right out about advocating overthrow of the government and seditious conspiracy, rebellion, and insurrection. It's already the law.
Right.
And then we have of course, the Article 2 of the Constitution. And here we are. And plus, all the facts have been collected in the case against Donald Trump, ready to go. And here we are, 1 month before he takes control. What about citizen rights? Yeah. We have a right to hear that case before he becomes president.
Which case are you talking about? There's several.
The January 6th.
Oh, okay. Judge Merchan?
Yeah.
Well, we heard the case. I think we have a right to see a sentence. But
yes. I'm also talking about the Jack Smith case.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. It's ready to go, and we can't even hear it.
I think Jack Smith should, and we don't know that he won't. I think that he should put together a report detailing everything that he was going to bring into court, essentially, and saying, here's what I know. Jack Smith report, kind of like the Mueller report. And he needs to do it before the Biden White House leaves. He needs to do it before January 20th so that it's all on the public record. And I sure hope he does that. I mean, I see no indicator that he is, but I see no indicator that he's not. So he's been very, very good. And no leaks come out of his shop, which is just amazing. Contrast that with Ken Starr, for example, who was just constantly leaking stuff.
Well, our situation right now is totally against the intention of the founders.
I agree.
And here the Supreme Court, they seem to go back to, what were the founders thinking? Well, they were not thinking this.
Yeah, that's BS. That's just an excuse that they use when they want to change the law in a way that comports with their belief of how America should be or what American law should be. But your point is well taken, Jackie. Jackie, thank you so much, and happy holidays. Donna in Palatine, Illinois. Hey, Donna, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Love you.
Thank you.
I have two things that I'd like to, inaccuracies that I'd like to correct. Mm-hmm. One, a gentleman called earlier regarding J.D. Pritzker being term limited and that he was going to run for the Senate. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. Illinois is one of 13 states that does not term limit their governor.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's good to know because he seems quite happy as governor and he's doing a damn good job.
Yeah, right. And I think he's great. And I just wanted to make sure that gentleman, realizes that was not true.
So if Dick Durbin doesn't run for re-election, who's going to replace him?
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I have no idea.
I'm with you. I think Rahm Emanuel is trying to set himself up for it. That's my sense of it right
now.
Oh,
God, I hope not.
I agree. He's terrible. But apparently he's been a good ambassador to Japan.
I think he wouldn't win either. I don't think he would win a primary. So.
Yeah, I suspect you're right.
The other thing I wanted to say is I realize that this is a nit, but this is something that you say frequently, and it's not quite true. Okay, and that is that when Trump had the Russians in the Oval Office, that he did that like the first week of his
it was the first month, wasn't it?
No, it was like around May 10th.
Oh, okay. So it's 4 months in.
It's not. I realize, like I said, this is a nit.
Yeah.
But you say.
No, thanks for correcting me. I appreciate it. I didn't. I knew it was early in his administration. I thought it was much earlier, but thank you for that.
Yeah, because remember, it happened the day after he fired Comey, because he was telling the Russians that he had this problem and he got rid of the problem.
That's right. You're right.
Remember?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. So it was it was right around May 10th that happened.
So it was the week of my birthday. My birthday's May 7th, so that maybe that'll help me remember it. that he did that in the week of my birthday. Donna, thank you. Thank you so much, and I wish you the
have a happy Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas back
you.
to you, Donna. Thank you so much for the call and your family. It's almost in a few seconds. It'll be 45 minutes past the hour, and I'll continue picking up your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Right back with your calls in just a moment. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where despair is not an option. And welcome back. I'm seeing Luigi Mangione was taken back to New York today, and there's just all kinds of little memes popping up around him. Number one, that he killed the wrong demographic. If he had killed a homeless black guy, the president, not this president, but the next president, would be inviting him to a football game. But because he killed a rich white guy, they're talking about putting him in prison for life, number one. And number two, that long video clip that they were all playing yesterday of him being marched off the helicopter, with like 15 cops with rifles and riot gear and stuff all around him. I saw a thing this morning that said that, it looked like they were leading Christ to the cross. It's so very strange stuff going on. Bobby in La Puente, California. Hey, Bobby. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. What's on your mind today?
Merry Christmas to you and your staff and your listeners. And it's good to hear Brother Mark. Thank you.
Mark came in today to just hang out, and he's answering the phones, I believe. Did he answer?
We got to get together, me and Mark, and
Mark's a good
you're
guy.
Invited.
Mark he's good people. So what's up?
Your whole staff. Hey, anyway, you're called Charles. I want to shout out to Charles. Don't do it. You know what? If I had a business, I would hire you. Conscientious, but again, with a union shop, Charles, you wouldn't have to gone through that.
That's true.
And I feel this pain. Okay? In a union, what you do, you take an oath. If you don't like the guy that's working next to you, you take him in a trailer, give him an attitude adjustment. Not just you, the others. It's a union. We all work together.
Okay.
So it wouldn't have happened. Charles, and if the Amazon strike, I pray that they unionize.
Yeah.
Put an application.
Yeah, you see, Jeff Bezos is going to take this to the mat. He's saying that these guys are not actually members of the union, that they're all contract drivers.
Well, they want to get a contract. And Bezos, the great Dildano, that's him. Yeah. That guy had no respect for him, no conscientious. They don't care for their people. But again, it hit me, Charles. Hang in there. And what I do, people on the edge during the holidays is tough. I work with people in addiction. I'm not a specialist, but, I'm there for anybody.
Yeah.
Compassion.
Oh, you have
Kino,
experience.
I love what you say. Yes, Kino. Doing that, it's a form of love. See, I couldn't use that word. I never understood it.
Yep. And
But
Kino
I'm
used to be a
learning-
Republican, and he's such a good guy.
Yes.
God bless him.
Good guy. Go fishing one day. I've ever hit Florida, but I didn't like Florida.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just got to hang in there, stay out of the problem, and get into the solution. I used to hear that. What are you talking about? Instead of fear, call somebody. Be active. Like you say, Tom, touch. You're it.
Yeah.
So pass it on.
Yeah, well.
And anyway, what we're going through, I'm sorry, Tom.
No, keep going.
My opinion, short-term pain, long-term gain. It's going to be tough, but we got to hang in there. And you as a leader, Tom, you don't like it, keep on pushing. That song by Curtis Mayfield. And I love the music because it inspired. Yes, that's you, Tom, whether you like it or not. Listen to it. It's called We're a Winner by Curtis Mayfield and the Precious.
Got it. Okay, Bobby.
Everyday people.
Okay. Love and Merry Christmas to you
All right.
and Vivian, and thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you, Bobby.
You bet.
Stay safe.
Love you guys.
Yep. Good
Stay
talking to you.
safe.
Thank you. 49 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Stay tuned. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. People in the Rust Belt states know all about tariffs. They know that tariffs kept jobs in the Rust Belt states for centuries, literally, that America was built on tariffs. It's one of the reasons Donald Trump got elected in 2016 was because he talked about tariffs. But for some reason right now, you know, the Harris-Walz campaign, or Democrats in general, are reluctant to talk about tariffs. They call them sales taxes or something like that. They really need to be a little more straightforward because people, particularly in the industrial Midwest, or in the Rust Belt, as we call it now, are not dumb. You know, they know what's going on. They know where we've been and how we got here. And I think it's pretty important to be talking about tariffs and what they are, how they work, and how they can bring manufacturing back home. I wrote a piece about it for Hartmann Report. It's titled, Why Trump is Wrong and Alexander Hamilton Was Right About Tariffs. And I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating at hartmannreport.com. Check it out.
I really can't stay. It's cold outside. Trump won't go away. Liberals, you've nowhere to hide. His tweets are so grim. He's just warming up again.
Welcome back. 51 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Dan in Chicago. Hey, Dan, what's up?
Thanks for taking my call. A couple of weeks ago, you called for the Democrats to wage class war against the Republicans and the politicians in the country. I think you're a little bit ahead of yourself. The Democrats first need to wage war and get the superdelegates, lobbyists, and political consultants out of the convention and off the DNC.
I'm all in favor of that too, Dan.
Well, you should be pushing that. That has to happen first.
Yeah.
They block all kinds of progressive programs. They block progressive candidates. They sabotage progressive candidates. It's been a disaster.
I agree.
They're responsible for the retrograde positions that DNC takes.
Yep, you're right.
They're unelected. They're just appointed by the leadership, and it serves no good purpose for us. The Republicans don't do that. The Republicans, the only organized delegates to Republican conventions are the state chairs and state treasurers. Otherwise, all the rest of them are elected.
Yeah.
We Democrats don't elect all of our delegates.
Yeah.
But we let the corporations rule the DNC.
Dan, I can't argue with you. Okay. I have taken that position in the past, and I will continue to. The Democratic Party needs to purge itself of these parasites and these corporate influences within the party, and I can't disagree. Thank you. Jan in Etna Green, Indiana. Hey, Jan, what's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, I've got a question. Since everybody's wringing their hands and clutching their pearls over the potential shutdown, I've projected into the future when Trump actually becomes president, and he usually means what he says. And he says he's going to be a dictator, but only for day one. Now, supposing he doesn't stop at day one and continues to be a dictator, does he need a Congress? Does he need a Supreme Court? Does he need anybody? And certainly, I'm not the first one to think of this. Is it going to be like Russia has their elections, or like Hitler had his little group, which Trump is, sort of amplified by his cabinet? So what is your opinion?
I think a better analogy is probably Hungary, but close to Russia. But yeah, I think you're right, Jan. And to the best of my knowledge, there's never been a dictator in history who only was a dictator for one day. I mean, once you seize that power, it's very seductive. It's very hard to let go of. So I suspect we're going to see an awful lot of stuff being, that he's going to try to do an awful lot of stuff by executive order. It's going to be a lot of legal challenges. A lot of stuff is probably going to end up before the Supreme Court. They will probably go along with expanding the power of the presidency, which may backfire if Democrats can take back the White House in 28. But for the moment, it's going to be very uncomfortable.
I just want your opinion on that. I really don't see very rosy times ahead, given the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
We have, so.
No,
okay, Tom.
I'm with
Thanks.
you. Jan, thank you very much. Yeah, the right-wing billionaires have largely taken over the country, including the Supreme Court. Absolutely. Jim in Fairchance, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Hey, I'm worried about my relatives over there in Poland and Slovakia with Putin and all these things going on there. But I have a hard time talking to them. But I just want to hit you with this, that the Polish national anthem is the title, Jeska Polska Nezgnała, and that means Poland has not yet perished. And I think over there, my dad was in the service in the 50s during the Cold War in France and Germany. There's Putin can do what he wants to do, but you're not going to let France, England, and Germany now them intervene in Poland. There's just something that's not going to happen.
I think this is why Putin is supporting Le Pen, why Putin is supporting AfD in Germany, Le Pen in France, why he's supporting the Reform Party in the UK. Putin is supporting all these and his trolls and his social media thing, along with Elon Musk and X. They're all supporting these far-right movements because they want to end democracy in Europe. Democracy in Europe is a very uncomfortable thing for autocrats and dictators like Putin and President Xi and Mohammed bin Salman.
Tom, did you ever hear Stalin said something here? Now, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But trying to put communism on Polish people is like trying to put a ballet slipper on an elephant's foot.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard that one, but it's probably true. Jim, thank you very much. Yeah, the Polish people have a strong streak of independence, and right now they're very concerned about Russia. We're hitting the top of the hour. I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Outrageous, screeched the U.S. Chamber.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com.
book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Code Red by E.J. Dionne Jr. It's how progressives and moderates can unite to save our country. This is from the introduction, titled The Opportunity We Dare Not Miss. Will progressives and moderates feud while America burns? Or will these natural allies take advantage of a historic opportunity to strengthen American democracy and defeat an increasingly radical form of conservatism? The choice in our politics is just that stark. This book is offered in a spirit of hope, but with a sense of alarm. My hope is inspired by the broad and principled opposition that Donald Trump's presidency called forth. It is a movement that can and should be the driving force in our politics long after Trump is gone. His abuses of office, his divisiveness, his bigotry, his autocratic habits, and his utter lack of seriousness about the responsibilities of the presidency drew millions of previously disengaged citizens to the public square and the ballot box. The danger he represented inspired young Americans to participate in our public life at unprecedented levels. Tens of thousands of Americans, especially women, have gathered in libraries, diners, and church basements to share wisdom, to organize, and in many cases to run for office themselves. These newly engaged citizens have created an opportunity to build a broad alliance for practical and visionary government, as promising as anything since the Great Depression gave Franklin Roosevelt the chance to build the New Deal coalition. To seize this opening, progressives and moderates must realize that they are allies who have more in common than they sometimes wish to admit. They share a commitment to what public life can achieve and the hope that government can be decent again. They reject the appeals to racism that have been Trump's calling card and the divisiveness at the heart of his electoral strategy. Together, they long for a politics focused on freedom, fairness, and the future. This new politics would be rooted in the economic justice that has always been the left's driving goal, and in the problem-solving approach to government that moderates have long championed. It's true that these camps often battle over whether the nation should seek restoration or transformation in the years after Trump. In fact, our country needs both. To restore the democratic norms we have always valued, we must begin to heal the social and economic wounds that led to Trump's presidency in the first place. Yet there is resistance to common ground among progressives and moderates alike. They often mistrust each other's motives, battle fiercely over tactics, argue over how much change our country needs, and squabble over whether specific policy ideas go too far or not far enough. The moderate says, hey, progressive, you think that if you just lay out the boldest and most ambitious approach to any given problem, that people will rally to your side. Really? For one thing, people may like your objective, but think you're changing things way more than we have to. And we can battle to the death over, say, a Democratic Party platform plank or the first draft of a bill. But without the hard negotiating and compromising that legislative politics requires, a bold idea will remain just a platform plank. That really doesn't do anyone any good. You subject everyone to so many litmus tests that we might as well be in chemistry class. And God save us from your abuse on Twitter if we disagree with you. You lefties have no idea how to win elections outside of Berkeley or Brooklyn, and some of your ideas are so sweeping that they'll scare potential voters away. At this point, the moderate is likely to wield the sturdy old punchline, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. But hold on, says the progressive. You moderates spend so much time negotiating with yourselves that you compromise away goals and priorities before the real battle even begins. Your ideas get so soggy and complicated that they mobilize no one and mostly put people to sleep. Better to have the courage of your convictions, lay out your hopes plainly and passionately, and inspire voters to join in. Besides, you middle-of-the-roaders were so petrified of Ronald Reagan and the right wing that you caved into the Gipper's economic ideas, let inequality run wild, and gave us a racist and grossly unfair criminal justice system. The extremists have pulled the political center so far right that the only way back to sanity is to show our fellow citizens what a real progressive program looks like. At the risk of sounding like a perhaps unwelcome counselor attempting to ease a family quarrel, I would plead with moderates and progressives to listen to each other carefully. If the events since 2016 do not teach moderates and progressives that they must find ways of working together, nothing will. If they fail to heed each other's advice and take each other's concerns seriously, they will surrender the political system to an increasingly undemocratic right with no interest in any of their shared goals, priorities, and commitments. Moderates are right about the complexity of getting things done in a democracy. Even when the boldest ideas have prevailed, they did so because complex coalitions were built. Important, and it should be said often legitimate, interests were accommodated, and some lesser goals were left by the wayside to be fought for another day. Moderates are also right that democracy requires persuading those who are open to change but worry about how this or that reform might work in practice or affect them personally. Think losing their private health insurance. Disdaining as sellouts, those who raise inconvenient questions or express qualms, is not the way to build a majority for reform. Moderates are also right that Americans in large number are tired of politics that involves more yelling than dialogue, more demonizing than understanding. But progressives are right to say that for the last 3 decades, moderates have spent too much time negotiating with themselves. Consider all the effort Democrats put into wooing Republicans by responding to their proposals to amend Obamacare. The book Code Red by E.J. Dionne Jr.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the third hour of our program. Just a couple of quickies here for you. Or actually just one, the scientific breakthrough. This is fascinating. What they're finding is, first of all, we've got these problems of long COVID, which seem to be associated with inflammation. Increasingly, they're finding that, or they're believing that maybe Alzheimer's has a role with inflammation. This was from researchers Diego Rincon-Lemus and Aaron N. Johnson. Neuroinflammation results when your central nervous system, the brain and spine, activates its own immune system to protect itself against infection, toxins, neurodegeneration, and traumatic injury. Neuroinflammatory reactions primarily occur in the brain, but for unknown reasons, patients also experience many symptoms outside the central nervous system, such as debilitating fatigue and muscle pain. So where does this come from? Well, now they're finding the brain produces high levels of cytokines, those things that like allergies produce, chemicals that activate the immune system that are released into the body. When these cytokines travel to muscles, they activate a series of chemical reactions that disrupt the ability of the powerhouse cells, the mitochondria, to produce energy, and thus, I'm exhausted. Right? The scientists note, since we studied the brain-muscle axis only in the context of simplified models, we don't know whether it applies to more complex conditions such as fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome. We also don't know how impaired energy production in muscles correlates with impaired energy production in the brain. But they are looking into these connections: long COVID, Alzheimer's, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and all tied back to inflammation, which raises the question, what causes inflammation, which is a whole nother very big conversation, although pretty much everybody agrees that at the top of that list is sugar. All right, so what's on your mind today? It's Anything Goes weekend here. Pat in Bellevue, Washington. Hey, Pat, what's up?
Hi, Matt. Tom. I just want to tell a funny story that should give everybody a bit of help. Don't underestimate your children. This has happened years ago. My daughter was a baby. A visitor came to talk with my husband about business, and he was introduced to me and then to the baby, whom he did not look at. Well, they said the husband and this man talked, and quietly my little daughter, 16 months old, went over and untied his shoelaces. She was not going to be ignored just because she was just a baby.
Wow, 16 months old. That's pretty good.
She knew she'd been slighted some way.
Yeah, we have 2 grandchildren who are now 5 and 3, I think. And it's just been amazing to watch them grow up. I had kind of forgotten. I mean, our youngest is in her 40s, and our oldest is in her 50s. And those early years are just so incredible. They grow so fast, and they learn so much, and they become so extraordinary so quickly. Their personalities emerge and everything. It's just such a blessing.
Well, I wish teachers and things like that would realize that they're way ahead of them.
Yeah.
But children know a lot more than the teachers and parents.
There you go. Well said, Pat. And happy holidays to you and your family.
Okay, same to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Jessica in Chicago. Hey, Jessica, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I want to wish you and your family a peaceful and relaxing holiday break.
Thank you.
And I want to wish it to all the callers and all the viewers, too. Just get away from this media and just enjoy yourselves. But one reason I called, I'm just so proud of the Amazon workers and the Starbucks employees, too, that are striking. And I want everybody, if you're around those strike lines, I would love it if people would take them treats, fruits, waters, bakeries, pizzas, mittens, hats, scarves, fleeces, whatever. Be extremely kind to these poor workers, because what happened last night, they're giving up their pay right before the holidays, but they had on, this was just on our town news. I stopped watching cable, but one Amazon worker was interviewed, and he said he has such a low salary, he can't afford to buy any Christmas presents anyway.
Oh, my.
So he's just striking for a livable wage. And, yeah, it's just so sad. And the meanest thing with the president-elect Musk rat, I like what you call him, he's showing how he's going to rule with all his servants. Let them have nothing over the holidays. Let them work and not be paid, because that's what he's all about. And the former president, life form, ready to destroy our country. It's so upsetting that once again, just shut it all down. Shut them off and meditate and watch something funny this holiday, because it's too much.
You know, at least Marie Antoinette wanted the bakers to give the crusts of the bread, which is what they translate that word into cake from the French, but it was actually the crusts, you know.
You're right.
She wanted them to give the crusts to the poor people. I'm not hearing Elon Musk even talk like that. So
no, it's very pathetic. Oh, but thank you for helping us get through it.
Okay. Well, Jessica, thank you for the call. It's always so nice to hear from you, and happy holidays and the very best of the season to you and your husband, too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep. Bob in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Well, hello, Tom.
Hey, Bob.
I hope you do have a good holiday.
Thank you. You need to get your mouth a little closer to your phone, Bob. It's hard to hear you.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, well, we're getting there. So what's up?
I just want to keep it short. We, the people, have a right to kick their ass.
Metaphorically.
No, really.
Oh.
I think meditation's good. If it helps you realize the situation you're in, so that you can get on with it. That's what meditation is good for, not for hiding and turning it off. And because the next election cycle will just be worse, just like the last one was worse.
You know, it starts in a couple of weeks. Virginia's having their elections in, the second, third week of January?
If you know.
And there's some pretty big stakes there.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, we the people, let's get organized here against the fascist billionaires and their cronies. That's all I had to say.
Well, you said it well, Bob, excuse me. And happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you for the call. Richard in Naples, Florida. Hey, Richard, what's up?
Oh, it's amazing. Hey, Tom. So nice for you to have taken this call. Thank you. Tom, it's a crazy Friday, and I will take advantage of that if I might. But at the same time, here's a true story. I live under a tower, Tom. It's a Homeland Security tower. And it was placed there on my property, which I've owned for 50 years. 50 years I've owned the land here in the very center of greater Naples, Florida. And they've built a tower for Homeland Security right next to my property. Everything you and I are saying right now is being heard by Homeland Security without a doubt in my mind. And, you know, for just to make sure that this is not considered stupid, I happen to be a retired attorney, and I understand constitutional law. So this is an interesting story, and it's Crazy Friday, and I present you with the opportunity to make Free Speech TV part of what's going on here.
Okay. All right. So they're build a tower next to your house. That doesn't sound like a great thing, Richard. Richard, thanks for the call, and happy holidays to you and your family. Jim in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. Just wanted to say to you and Louise and great staff, a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.
And well-deserved 2 weeks
back at
off.
you, Jim.
And, yeah, although I'll miss you very much, a la FDR.
There you go. There you go.
But what I'm also wanting to say is that once this oligarch takeover starts, I really believe, Tom, that the majority of Americans will not put up with this fascist corptocracy. What do you think? I mean, Revolution 2025.
I think if you look at what happened in Russia and you look at what happened in Hungary, and I think probably Hungary is the closest analog to what's happening literally right now in the United States, what you find is that most people are not politically engaged. Most people are not listening to programs like this, left or right. Most people are listening to music if they're listening to the radio, or listening to sports. On TV, they're watching dramas or cop shows. And so, you know, when autocrats decide that they're going to corrupt democracies and take over countries, they typically have considerable luck doing it. And, you know, that's, shall we say, a problem? But
well, I agree with that, Tom, but I think we still have fight in it.
Oh yeah, and there's a bunch of us that are still going to be fighting. But I don't think that there's going to be this big explosion of opposition. It's going to have to be slow and steady opposition. You know, we need to form an opposition movement, as it were. Jim, thank you for the call, and happy holidays to you and your family. 17 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Exposing the con in conservative. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Rick in, oh, hey, Rick, I see you're listening to Sirius XM. Let me pick you up when they're back on the air, as we're just talking to our nonprofits right now. My apologies. Jessica in Seattle. Hey, Jessica, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Jessica.
I was wondering if you were familiar with Jessica Denson. She was a Trump campaign staffer in 2016.
Say the name again.
She was a campaign staffer for Trump. Jessica Denson.
No,
and she has a podcast called Lights On. She took him to court for illegal NDAs and won.
Huh.
Anyway, she had been on the Midas Touch, and I just listened to a podcast that she just had that I thought was really interesting, which was basically saying that her point was that the Supreme Court ruled on Trump's eligibility for the Colorado ballot, that he had to stay on there, but they didn't actually rule on his eligibility as a candidate, as to be president or to hold office.
I've made that point many times here, Jessica. I don't think that he is eligible to be president without a 2/3 vote of the House and Senate, and I'm not seeing that happen. So I think if he occupies the White House on January 20th, and frankly, I think Biden and Merrick Garland are going to let him do it, he's doing so illegally.
Is there nothing that we can do as the public?
I don't think so. I think, sadly, this is the sort of thing that would take a widespread, knowledgeable public movement. It would require a bunch of high-profile politicians going on television and talking about it. It would require the commentators on the various networks all agreeing with that. You'd have to create a kind of a national consensus. And I think that ship sailed a long time ago.
Yeah, I just think it's so surprising that South Korea and these other countries are, holding the people's feet to the fire, and we're just letting this happen.
Well, I wrote about this. What Yoon had failed to do, the South Korean president, is he had failed to seize control of the judiciary. He had failed to seize control of the media, and he had lost his majority in the parliament. So it was really stupid for him to try to declare martial law. Trump is not going to have those problems.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Well, thank you for everything you do. I listen to you every day. So
thank you for your kind
words. Happy holidays.
Thanks. Back at you.
Okay.
Ed in Chicago. Hey, Ed, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Let's not forget about the flying spaghetti monster. I hope he blesses you and all with his wonderful appendage this time of year.
Thank you. I'll have to put my colander on this afternoon and do a little davening.
Anyway, a quick Thomas Jefferson quote for you. I'll get to my point. He said, "The end of democracy and the defeat of the American Revolution will occur when government falls into the hands of lending institutions and moneyed in corporations."
Wow.
Pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm asking this to you, but I'm asking this to you hoping that maybe someone in the Democratic Party is listening. It just boggles my mind to this day, as long as you've been having your offer for any Democratic representative to come on your show, that we have only 2 or 3 people who do take part of that on a regular basis.
Yeah, same here.
And I'm hoping going forward in the future that the Democratic, members of the Democratic Party will realize the importance of utilizing all platforms.
I agree.
Not just yours, but all platforms.
Oh, there's a bunch of good podcasts out there too, and there's other good shows.
And it doesn't have to be a town hall. It could be just showing up for 10 minutes and making a point.
Yep.
But
and I'm hoping that the new
out there.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the new chair of the Progressive Caucus will be coming on the program because he is, Sean. You don't. Sean's working on it. Ed, thanks for the call and happy holidays. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com.
I saw Daddy kissing Santa Claus.
22 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hey, happy Friday, Tom, and happy holidays to you, Louise, the crew, and all your listeners and callers.
Thank you.
The program has been a beacon of light, what I would say a Democratic Rock of Gibraltar since the election day. So thank you so much for what you guys do. And what I want to say today, Tom, is that on the surface, where we are today politically mirrors where we were 56 years ago when we had an outgoing Democratic president who had accomplished a hell of a lot here at home domestically, but whose legacy was going to be forever tarnished by an overseas war. And I think that's partially true of President Biden. And I think it's unconscionable what he's allowed. Yeah, it's unconscionable what he's allowed Netanyahu to continue to do in Gaza. 2 more major international groups, have called it ethnic cleansing and genocide, along with last week Amnesty International doing the same thing. 2 more groups this week, Doctors Without Borders and Human Rights Watch. So we need to keep pressuring him until he leaves office to cut off the U.S. weapons to Israel. But going back to 68, as bad as Nixon was following LBJ, Trump 2.0 promises to be 1,000 times worse, Tom. With his new round of tax cuts for the rich, deregulation, tariffs, and mass detentions, is there any way we can possibly avoid a significant recession? And before you answer that, your Hartmann report from yesterday warned about a kind of slow fascist takeover. But how concerned are you about a 1930s Germany's Reichstag moment? You back in 2003, before I had ever heard your show, you wrote a very clever political essay warning about W. Bush trying to do exactly the same thing. That Hitler used in 30s Germany.
Well.
But here we are now. I think it's a lot more, I think, imminent right now, don't you think?
I do, and I don't talk about it much because it kind of throws you into the category of conspiracy nut. But I am. Oh wow, Russia just bombed Kyiv. Incredible. I am fully expecting a false flag operation of some kind to happen during the Trump presidency, and that he will use that or exploit that to declare martial law and suspend the Constitution. It's not just that it wouldn't surprise me. I fully expect it.
And what can we do to inoculate the populace against something like that?
I don't know, because I mean it's a really fine line. I mean, if you talk about it a whole lot, you get written off as a conspiracy nut and a crank and Cassandra and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't talk about it, then when it happens, people are shocked by it, and you end up with well, I mean, look what happened after 9/11. We got the Patriot Act. We got the suspension of the Constitution in some ways, and we got lied into 2 wars that cost 7,000 American lives, $1 trillion, several $1 trillion in treasure, and the lives of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghans, or Afghanis. I don't know. I don't have an easy solution for that one, Jeff. The German people were not ready when the Reichstag-Gebäude caught on fire or was lit on fire by Marius van der Lubbe. I mean, there's a pretty broad consensus these days that the Nazis had manipulated him into doing it. But I don't have an easy solution. But I'm very concerned about it.
Well, maybe you can repost the thing you wrote back in 2003, and also besides the comparison to Orban in Hungary and Putin in Russia, I think the fictional movie we've talked about a lot in the past is very relevant to today. If people want to watch it over the holidays, the HBO miniseries "The Plot Against America," based on the Philip Roth book, I think is very applicable to
it really
where we are
is
now.
And for those people who don't know what we're talking about, it's on Netflix, right, Jeff? Am I remembering correctly?
Well, it was originally on HBO. I'm
HBO.
not sure if it's
okay, so
on Netflix.
It's probably still on HBO. Yeah. So it's called The Plot Against America, and it's basically about America making the turn to take out the Jews. And that sounds outrageous, right? But when you watch this movie, it's like, holy cow, this absolutely could happen. The Plot Against America over on HBO. Jeff, thank you, and happy holidays to you and your family. And thank you so much for calling so frequently and all the positive things that you have to offer in this program. We're hitting the break at the bottom of the hour. I'll pick up more of your calls on the other side of this break, so stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truth, President Musk would really rather you didn't know all about. I'll be right back with you on the other side of this break.
It's the Thom Hartmann University Book Club, and today we're reading from... Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Code Red by E.J. Dionne Jr. It's how progressives and moderates can unite to save our country. This is from the introduction, titled The Opportunity We Dare Not Miss. Will progressives and moderates feud while America burns? Or will these natural allies take advantage of a historic opportunity to strengthen American democracy and defeat an increasingly radical form of conservatism? The choice in our politics is just that stark. This book is offered in a spirit of hope, but with a sense of alarm. My hope is inspired by the broad and principled opposition that Donald Trump's presidency called forth. It is a movement that can and should be the driving force in our politics long after Trump is gone. His abuses of office, his divisiveness, his bigotry, his autocratic habits, and his utter lack of seriousness about the responsibilities of the presidency drew millions of previously disengaged citizens to the public square and the ballot box. The danger he represented inspired young Americans to participate in our public life at unprecedented levels. Tens of thousands of Americans, especially women, have gathered in libraries, diners, and church basements to share wisdom, to organize, and in many cases to run for office themselves. These newly engaged citizens have created an opportunity to build a broad alliance for practical and visionary government, as promising as anything since the Great Depression gave Franklin Roosevelt the chance to build the New Deal coalition. To seize this opening, progressives and moderates must realize that they are allies who have more in common than they sometimes wish to admit. They share a commitment to what public life can achieve and the hope that government can be decent again. They reject the appeals to racism that have been Trump's calling card and the divisiveness at the heart of his electoral strategy. Together, they long for a politics focused on freedom, fairness, and the future. This new politics would be rooted in the economic justice that has always been the left's driving goal, and in the problem-solving approach to government that moderates have long championed. It's true that these camps often battle over whether the nation should seek restoration or transformation in the years after Trump. In fact, our country needs both. To restore the democratic norms we have always valued, we must begin to heal the social and economic wounds that led to Trump's presidency in the first place. Yet there is resistance to common ground among progressives and moderates alike. They often mistrust each other's motives, battle fiercely over tactics, argue over how much change our country needs, and squabble over whether specific policy ideas go too far or not far enough. The moderate says, "Hey, progressive, you think that if you just lay out the boldest and most ambitious approach to any given problem, the people will rally to your side. Really? For one thing, people may like your objective, but think you're changing things way more than we have to. And we can battle to the death over, say, a Democratic Party platform plank or the first draft of a bill. But without the hard negotiating and compromising that legislative politics requires, a bold idea will remain just a platform plank. That really doesn't do anyone any good. You subject everyone to so many litmus tests, so we might as well be in chemistry class. And God save us from your abuse on Twitter if we disagree with you. You lefties have no idea how to win elections outside of Berkeley or Brooklyn, and some of your ideas are so sweeping that they'll scare potential voters away." At this point, the moderate is likely to wield the sturdy old punchline, "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." But hold on, says the progressive. You moderates spend so much time negotiating with yourselves that you compromise away goals and priorities before the real battle even begins. Your ideas get so soggy and complicated that they mobilize no one and mostly put people to sleep. Better to have the courage of your convictions, lay out your hopes plainly and passionately, and inspire voters before to join in. Besides, you middle-of-the-roaders were so petrified of Ronald Reagan and the right wing that you caved into the Gipper's economic ideas, let inequality run wild, and gave us a racist and grossly unfair criminal justice system. The extremists have pulled the political center so far right that the only way back to sanity is to show our fellow citizens what a real progressive program looks like. At the risk of sounding like a perhaps unwelcome counselor attempting to ease a family quarrel, I would plead with moderates and progressives to listen to each other carefully. If the events since 2016 do not teach moderates and progressives that they must find ways of working together, nothing will. If they fail to heed each other's advice and take each other's concerns seriously, they will surrender the political system to an increasingly undemocratic right with no interest in any of their shared goals, priorities, and commitments. Moderates are right about the complexity of getting things done in a democracy. Even when the boldest ideas have prevailed, they did so because complex coalitions were built. Important, and it should be said often legitimate, interests were accommodated, and some lesser goals were left by the wayside to be fought for another day. Moderates are also right that democracy requires persuading those who are open to change but worry about how this or that reform might work in practice or affect them personally. Think losing their private health insurance. Disdaining as sellouts, those who raise inconvenient questions or express qualms, is not the way to build a majority for reform. Moderates are also right that Americans in large number are tired of politics that involves more yelling than dialogue, more demonizing than understanding. But progressives are right to say that for the last 3 decades, moderates have spent too much time negotiating with themselves. Consider all the effort Democrats put into wooing Republicans by responding to their proposals to amend Obamacare. The book Code Red by E.J. Dionne Jr.
Excuse me, 34 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. James in Hollywood. Hey, James, what's up?
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, Tom.
There you go.
And all you listeners out there. I got a Christmas present for everyone. I've been getting active, Tom, in the last couple of years. We've been putting together this directdemocracycorporation.com. I want to invite everyone to come and get involved. There were 89 million eligible voters in this last election that didn't vote. And
are you talking about registered voters or people who had the potential to be registered?
Eligible.
Meaning registered?
No.
Potentially registered. Okay, got it.
Correct. Anyhow, direct democracy. I asked, all the people who didn't vote, why, and the first answer is they're all the same, and the other one is it doesn't matter.
Right, the game is rigged.
My vote doesn't count. Anyhow, with directdemocracycorporation.com, and everyone come get involved, it will show how everyone can be active and influence and affect their own community and statewide and federally.
Okay, your URL is Direct Democracy Corporation, spell out the whole word.com?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. James, good luck with that. Let me know how it works out. Happy holidays to you and your family. Alfredo in Mountain View, California. Hey, Alfredo, what's up?
Hey, happy holidays to you and all your group there.
Thank you. Back at you.
Yeah, Louise is very talented, Tom.
Pardon?
I can't believe all the music. Louise and the music that she makes is unbelievable.
Yeah, she's good. She's quite a lyricist.
Yeah, I was calling to remind your listeners about the benefits of following a vegan diet. As you know, if any of your listeners are suffering from heart disease or diabetes or any other diseases, plant-based diet can prevent and reverse many of these conditions. And I wanted to direct them to a website, if you allow me. PCRM, or Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM.org, where they have tons of information on how to help people to empower themselves and take control of their health. And that's my message. And
that's great.
There's great work.
There's two movies I'd refer people to also, Alfredo. I don't know if you've seen either one of them. One is called This Changes Everything. It's narrated by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's about vegan weightlifters and top-of-the-line athletes. And the other one is Forks Over Knives, which is 8 or 10 years old, and it's about literally reversing heart disease. It's put together by doctors at the Cleveland Clinic.
I've seen Fork Over Knives, but another great movie of athletes is The Game Changers. It's a fantastic documentary.
Oh, Game Changers. That's the one that I was thinking. I said This Changes Everything. It wasn't. It's Game Changers. You're absolutely right. That's the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger narrated, right?
Yeah. It's an incredible documentary where you have a lot of athletes, and they're outperforming all the meat eaters. It's incredible.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Distance runners, weightlifters, wrestlers, boxers. I mean, it's just incredible. And there's this whole thing now of these vegan bodybuilders. I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, gorillas are vegetarian, elephants are vegetarian, cows that we eat are vegetarian, horses that carry us all over the place, they're vegetarian. Or vegans, actually. They're all vegans. Yeah, you're right. And
the strongest animals on Earth, Tom, as you were talking, are herbivores: elephants, rhinos, gorillas.
Yep.
And people have this misconception that carnivores are the strongest animals, but it's not.
No, they're not. They're just the best predators. Yeah, I've got my fried tofu, or not fried, but it's kind of basted in some kind of soy sauce with mushrooms and onions and some fried potatoes is my breakfast. It's sitting right next to me here. So there you go.
I had tofurkey for Christmas.
Tofurkey. That's still around?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They are still out, and they have a great website, tofurky.com. They have all kinds of plant-based meat alternatives.
Yeah, I also I have celiac disease. I can't eat wheat, so for a long time, Tofurky was not gluten-free. I don't know if it is now, but I just couldn't eat it. So it's been years since I've seen Tofurky around. But
well, there's plenty of alternatives. But
oh yeah, I know.
Thank you for everything that you do, Tom. Thank you.
Enough.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alfredo. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lawrence in Berkeley. Hey, Lawrence, what's up?
Yeah, hi, Tom. There's only one way that we're going to get back democracy and overcome oligarchy, and that is that we have to have a wealth tax. Having a 90% income tax, as FDR to Eisenhower did, is not sufficient because it leaves Elon Musk with his $500 billion.
Well, on top of that, these guys have already figured out a way around the income tax, which is that they just don't take income. They live off borrowed money. And, they borrow it against their own assets, and then they live off it, and then they get to deduct the interest if they ever have taxes to pay. And that's why, so many of your billionaires pay nothing or very little in income taxes.
Right. But even if that was taxed, if you don't have a wealth tax, let's do the arithmetic with Elon Musk. He's now got approaching $500 billion. That means that he could pay $5 billion a year to swing the election. He only paid $750 million this time, but he could spend $5 billion on the election.
Yeah,
and he could do it for the next 100 years.
Yep, and without losing a penny.
That's right. And, of course, if he bought the election, he'd be getting a whole lot more money. This was the big mistake. The biggest mistake that FDR made is that he left all the property and all the wealth in the hands of the capitalists so they could buy back the elections and buy back the government, which they did.
Well, I would lay more of that at the feet of 5 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court in the 70s, led by Lewis Powell, and then in 2010, led by Clarence Thomas, who himself was actively being bribed by a billionaire at the time.
Before that, we elected Nixon and Reagan, so it can't just be the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm
but
with you.
The thing is that if we had a wealth tax that was strong enough that pretty soon poor Elon Musk would only have $1 billion, then we could have real democracy.
Yeah, that would be confiscatory, which I'm all in favor of.
We need to be confiscatory.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren is suggesting, 2%, as I recall? 2% per year?
Not enough.
Yeah, no,
it's not really enough.
I agree, but
as long as
even that is too big a lift for the entire Republican Party and probably half the Democrats. But I agree with your diagnosis and your solution.
Yeah, it's a long-range thing. It's not going to happen until the Democrats have a trifecta, and most of the Democrats, the great majority of those Democrats are real progressives.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we need to be talking about this more.
We're simply not going to have a democracy. You can't have a democracy with people having that much money.
Yep.
This has been said
particularly
over
when they're
again.
legally allowed to participate in politics with that money, use that money to influence politics. Lawrence, happy holidays to you and your family. I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Dr. Robert in Bainbridge Island, Washington. Hey, Doc, what's up?
Hey, that's a good question, Tom. What's up is good wishes for the holiday season. Everyone needs that. And several calls back, you made a very good observation that there's not a simple solution to most things. There really isn't.
Right.
But I'd like to add a reading suggestion that our book group up here has been looking at. It's extremely fascinating, sort of radical in the sense that it goes to the root of things, which, there's so many issues on the surface that we'd like to change, but we have to be vigilant about the root. It's called The Next Wave. It's by one of the founders of OpenAI, only it's not a technophile who's, blind to the problems. Mustafa Suleiman is the author, and it is extremely educated and vigilant.
Can you summarize it in 2 or 3 sentences, Robert?
Well, no, I can tell you he's realistic and says that he calls it containment. Every technology that humans have ever invented has been contained at some point so that the dangerous or lethal aspects don't overwhelm people. And at this point, both the AI and the biological revolution have that possibility of overwhelming us and destroying civilization, perhaps. Right. So he has 10 points at the end of his book that are all actionable. That's one thing that most people want, is something they can do versus what the government or the legislature or someone else should do, which, it's like the Supreme Court doing something. Don't wait for that right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Robert, thank you very much, and happy holidays to you and your family, and spot on. It's 1:45, or will be in a few seconds. Whoa! And my phone just woke up. It's 1:45. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Fair and only slightly unbalanced. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Denny in Salem, Oregon. Hey, Denny, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Hey, how about a Celtic tree holiday?
There you go.
Hey, you and I have a lot in common. I was a member of SDS near Eugene, Oregon, back in the 60s and all that. Mm-hmm. I made a silk screen, and we made. I had a friend help me, and we made McCarthy posters.
Oh wow! I remember Eugene.
So
McCarthy.
Anyway, I'll make it really quick. Mm-hmm. I came across that when Finland was invaded by the Nazis, they put paper clips on their shirts, and that was a communication way that they could distinguish themselves as being friends. And anyway, I sewed one on my hat, among other things. And I think what I don't understand is the word cacistocracy. I believe that's where we're at. Nobody mentions it, and I think somebody on Joy Reid mentioned it, and that was the last time they were on there. Yeah. But that's what I look at it. And one other thing.
So you're suggesting that it's government of, by, and for the incompetent, basically? I mean, cacistoc?
Pardon?
Cacistocracy. My understanding is that's basically a government that doesn't work because it's being run by incompetent people.
Yeah. The most stupidest. It goes back to 1700, and then it was brought back in 1830. I read all the things on it, and to me, it fit perfectly. Yeah. In fact, I sewed it onto my hat.
Yeah.
But everybody around here is so damn dumb they don't know what it means.
No, of course.
I don't tell them.
Well, it's almost 100-year-old meme.
Yeah. And then the other thing you were talking about, somebody here is going to. It was best for people to be rounded up for their protection. I think it was like an hour ago on your show, and you know more about Germany than I do. That's what the Burgermeisters were told to do in their little towns. Go around and get because they were friends with the Jewish people, and they'd round them up, and we're going to put you on a train and take you somewhere safe until we figure this out. Well, we know where the trains went.
Yep.
So I'd be totally, watch out for those kind of things.
Agreed.
And being Scottish, we don't leave our castle.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Denny, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you,
great to hear from you. Thank you. Conrad in San Diego. Hey, Conrad, what's up?
God jul.
What's that?
That's Norwegian or Swedish for Merry Christmas.
Okay, well, Merry Christmas back at you. Good.
I think I might have your ultimate book project.
Okay.
A lot of readers, new converts to Christianity, crack open a Bible and it's just absolutely incomprehensible. Right. And really, what the Bible is, in a lot of ways, is a legal document. And so, what radio preachers will do, if they're popular, they'll create a expanded Bible. And after a verse in the Bible, then they'll go on underneath it and write an expanded explanation as to what this verse means. And I think you, Thom Hartmann, not anyone else, but you should write an expanded constitution.
Huh.
And
that's an idea.
In your example, like the 1880s Wells Fargo Pacific Railroad.
Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you do all the things you've done from your show.
Yeah. Well, that's an idea. Let me kick that around with Louise. We've been trying to figure out what the next project would be. Thank you, Conrad, and happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. From Los Angeles to Columbia, South Carolina, from Birmingham, Alabama to Baltimore, universal basic income programs are chalking up proof after proof of their viability. Basically just giving people, low-income people, poor people, somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a month, no strings attached, is lifting people out of poverty, getting them back on track, getting them into solid middle-class jobs, helping their children tremendously. This works. Now, we don't have to do UBI in the United States. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care program. Health expenses are whacking a lot of low-income people. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have free college education. Education expenses are whacking people. There's a lot we could do. We can subsidize housing. We can subsidize food. We do that with food stamps. We could expand it. There's a lot we could do to benefit from this. There's a whole report about that over at hartmanreport.com. Check it out.
The North Pole, there's a man with a list, checking it twice, seeing who he'll assist. Santa's been listening, the word's getting clear. He tunes to Thom Hartmann this time every year. Does Santa Claus listen to the Thom Hartmann Show? He's
I hope so. We'd like to get some presents here. Connor in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hey, Connor, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, can you hear me?
Just fine, yeah.
Okay. Hey, so believe it or not, what's on my mind is, I don't know if you've been keeping track of movie news, but the trailer for the upcoming Superman movie, July, came out yesterday. And I saw it, and it made me tear up, and I've already seen a lot of reactions on YouTube.
Really? The new Superman movie? Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, that inspires me because even though Superman's a fictional character, he's always kind of been this beacon of hope and goodness ever since his debut in 1938.
Yeah, it wasn't peace, freedom in the American way. That was my takeoff on it. What was it? Truth, justice in the American way? Was that his slogan?
Yes.
I think it was something like that.
And, you know, and it makes me think, you know, we're hearing so much bad news ever since Trump got in office. Billionaires getting tax cuts, repeals on vital industries, cutting Social Security, like all this, that. It seems like evil runs the world, especially when we got all these problems like climate change and, you know, poverty and war and these aren't bugs of the system. They're features because it's profitable. It's not profitable, and that sucks. But you know, the idea of someone with that much power who chooses to help and protect people in need instead of exploit or oppress them, that really inspires me. And, you know, I'm not only inspired by that, but I'm inspired by just all the good people in the world who take for granted. Firefighters, doctors, activists, volunteers, wherever they may be.
Well, you think I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Keep going.
Yeah. In a way, they're all doing Superman's work. And the greatest thing about him isn't his powers. It's his humanity. He cares so much about Earth because he doesn't want to lose it like he lost Krypton.
Yeah, it's kind of a noblesse oblige. It's the obligations of nobility. With great power, with great blessings come great obligations. A lesson that Joe and Rose Kennedy just pounded into their children, and apparently didn't make it to the second generation, sadly, as we're seeing with Bob. But I totally get it. Connor, thank you. That was sweet. Thank you. Bill in Etheridge, Tennessee. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I've got the project of all projects for you and Louise.
Okay. Like we need another one. What is it?
I've been this around for a while. I don't know if you've ever read the book Raven Rock by Garrett Graff.
I have not.
Well, there's a documentary series that Vice TV showed. It's about 8 episodes long. You can buy them for 99 cents an episode on Amazon if you deal with Amazon. Mm-hmm. And it is the best documentary I've seen in years. They put an episode on now and then, but they haven't run the complete series for a while. Mm-hmm. But if you guys could pick up on something like that, what they've done, and talk to Garrett and get his permission to use his information from that book, and find a progressive philanthropist that would fix you guys up with a DVD burner, commercial type deal that you could knock out, 5,000 DVDs a day or 2,000 or whatever they can do, and make a new documentary, two DVDs long or 3, whatever it takes to do 4 or 6 hours.
Yeah. Well, let me check it out, Bill. Let me check it out. I want to try and get a couple more calls in here before the end of the hour, and I only have a minute and a half. Bill, thank you for the call. Marty in Worth, Illinois. Hey, Marty, what's up?
Oh, hey, Tom. Thank you so much for being the valuable resource that you are for all of us. And I just wanted to share, season's greetings and have Merry Christmas. And you've inspired me so much. I've started posting on Substack. And it's such a great resource. And I think to combat, all of the right-wing authoritarian takeover of our press, we can all use our voices. And the way to get through to those other people, create a Substack, invite your Republican friends to read your Substack.
There you go. What is the name of your Substack newsletter, Marty?
It is Marty is RIGHT at .substack.com. Okay. Today, mine's all about Citizens United. Cool. And,
Marty, I'm out of time. I'm sorry. But good luck with your Substack, and I wish you the very best. Ours has been quite successful for us, and I think it's just a great platform. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll be back live in 2 weeks. We've got some just extraordinary programs coming up for you over the next 2 weeks. And, so stay safe. And, of course, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. I'll see you on the other side, as it were. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe. Be good to yourself and the people around you. And happy holidays.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. FDR saved America, then the GOP ripped us apart. And, as I know, today is the official beginning of the political season. It's the first Tuesday after Labor Day.